Alright, hello and welcome to another game of Days Without Strife. I'm going to be commentating this day by day as per usual. This is a negotiation game. It's an asymmetric negotiation game. You have some factions who all work the same way, conquering territories, and you have a bunch of wildcards who all work in very different ways and can assist those factions. One of these factions will win, one of the wildcards will win, and they're competing against the same type of players. So factions compete against factions, wildcards compete against wildcards. I'm not going to go into more detail on it than that. If you want to see more, there's a whole playlist of Days Without Strife videos, and the earlier ones in there explain a lot of how this game works. But you should be able to pick up enough about how the game works as we go. It's not hugely complicated. So in this game, I am playing as the Masquerade. I'm a faction. I'm working with two other faction members. TheQueenInYellow, who is playing as our speaker. They're the diplomatic player who's going around talking to other people. And Katherine, who is playing as our commander. They are the military leader. I am the planner. I'm the person working on our economy and keeping our industry afloat here. We can all do anything on the faction, but those roles sort of put us into specific areas, so the speaker will be focusing more on the diplomacy. I'm going to be focusing more on the economy here, although I've been pulled into a lot of diplomacy anyway, just because that's how the economy works, right? You gotta talk to people. Why did they also commend? Curious. Okay, anyway, hopefully they're not stealing our trade good. So it is currently day 2. I've missed day 1 on this recording, because I didn't really have time to record on day 1. It wasn't the most active day 1, but it was quite interesting, right? There were a lot of negotiations that were ongoing, particularly with the wildcards. Because if you look at what's going on with the wildcards in this game, people are getting them really on lockdown, or they're trying to, right? You can have a look at where the bases are. These little things here are the bases of each wildcard. You can see this is a Brotherhood base, the Bastion. The Brotherhood put all their bases in Young Empire territory, which basically makes them beholden to the Young Empire, and they're probably expecting a lot of Electrum from the Young Empire. If you aren't already aware, Electrum is a currency, it's this down here, that factions can generate, have absolutely no use to the factions themselves, but they can use it to pay the wildcards for things, and whichever wildcard has the most Electrum by the end of the game will win. So the wildcards are really trying to get that Electrum off the factions. The problem with putting all your wildcard bases in one faction like this is that a faction can go around and burn your bases down if it's in their territory. And so if the Brotherhood ever sell to people who are aiming to invade the Young Empire could just go, you know what, screw you, I'm gonna take all your bases down, and that removes your ability to do all that much. They can still sell stuff, but there are, like, characters in this game, especially for the Brotherhood, I think it's like the Baron, that scales based on the number of bases that they have. So the fact that Young Empire has them on lockdown is really important for Young Empire, really good for Young Empire, right? And they did this before even talking to us, so we never got in contact with the Brotherhood, we've never been able to buy a Brotherhood agent. Maybe we should reach out a little bit more, but they are on the other side of the map, so it's not... It's a little bit of a hard thing for us to justify. However, you will note, if you look at the Arcforge over here, they've also grabbed as many bases as possible, and notably 2 of the same character's bases twice. So they've got 2 Spymaster bases, here in Nighthold, here in Future Spire, 2 Renegade bases in Leafburn, and... oh god, what's this one called? It's called like 0000000 or something like that. Here, Naught or Null. Sorry, Null or Null is the official human translation of that city. And they did this before those 2 wildcards had bases anywhere else, right? What the hell? Okay, you can't do that. Okay, anyway, well, I just got scammed by the merchant. That's great. Usually the wildcards don't do that this early. But hey, that's a... yeah. Anyway, I've gotten off topic. I'll talk about that when we get to day 2. For the moment, I was talking about the fact Spymaster has 2 bases in Arkforged territory, Renegade has 2 bases in Arkforged territory. Those are both very aggressive wildcards. So the Spymaster gets to go around tranquilizing people. They have 3 tranquilizer darts. One of them is incredibly powerful. The assassination takes out a character for 2 whole days. And the Renegade pops up units in territories that don't have any units, right? And can invade places. Renegade is less strong than they used to be. They won the last playtest, the European one that I wasn't playing in, by a massive margin, and I think got nerfed a bit because of that. Because of changes in exactly how combat worked, they can't actually neutralize cities anymore, but they can still run in and kill opponents. So they have very, very strong units. So they are worth keeping an eye on. And looking at the Arkforged get all of these, we were incredibly worried off the bat. We were like, oh my god. Like, if Arkforged lock down both of these wildcards as working with them and only them, that is a massive issue, right? It's a huge issue. So, as a response to that, we ended up getting a Spymaster base up in Xeric. We offered Spymaster a base so that they could talk to us. And then we started talking to the Spymaster a bunch and found out that actually they're not monopolized by the Arkforged. The Arkforged are just being quite friendly to them, but they are very open to working with other people. And it turned out we were super worried about the Renegade, like, raising a bunch of forces in this area and coming for us. But actually, the Spymaster kind of allayed our concerns on that. They said, hey, Arkforged are actually looking to work with you this game. They're much more worried about the Imperials over here because the Imperials have Kingsland. And we were like, oh, well, we didn't know that because the Arkforged hadn't really talked to us yet. So we were very relieved to hear that. And when Renegade got aboard our airship over here, they actually said the same thing. Like, we're not really looking to work against you. Give me a base in your territory. So we gave them an Ingester Crest, and I won't attack you this turn. And we were like, yeah, that's fine. We actually really like the fact that the Renegade has a base in Ingester Crest because it gives us a little bit of leverage over them, right? You will note that we have 4 bases in our territory of different wildcards. I think that's fantastic. That means we can talk to people by putting a forum down there. You can talk to the wildcard who has a base in that area. And we have a variety of different people we can talk to, right? So that's where the wildcard situation is at, right? We were worried about people monopolizing them, but we ended up actually getting a pretty good thing out of that because we have one of most of the wildcard bases in our territory. On that first day, we had a bit of an issue because you have telegrams in this game, right? You have the ability to send people messages here. And this costs dashes, which are down here. You can see that we have 13 dashes left out of a total of 30 that we started the day with. Now, unfortunately, on that first day, we as a faction had thought, hey, we need to go for Kingsland, because Kingsland gives you 2 trade goods per day, right? And trade goods are fantastic. They can be turned into any resource. Realistically, you usually want to turn them into steel or electrum, but you can turn them into something else if you really wanted to. And the flexibility of that is fantastic. So Kingsland is really good, and if you overwork Kingsland, which means putting your planner unit there, planner lets you double your collection and waive the capital cost of that, then you actually collect 4 trade goods. So 4 of any resource. Absolutely ludicrously good. Now, Kingsland starts the game neutral, and it's a bit of a race to get there in the first place. We had the Highwaymen in our area, and Highwaymen can speed you up considerably. If they lay down these trapped routes, which you can see between Qantas and Null Alt Null, Null Alt Null here, or this trapped route between Nighthold and Qantas, those routes usually deduct Electrum from anyone who travels over them. It's like a route that the Highwayman is ambushing people along, right? But if you're the Highwayman's ally, it actually speeds you up because they provide you an escort service. So if you go over one of these routes with a person, when you are allied with the Highwayman, you're able to move down another route at the same checkpoint. Absolutely fantastic. We started with units in Jestercrest and Zeissa over here. We moved one of them to the theatre, and then we asked the highwayman, hey, can you create a route here so that we can jump over to Kingsland on the next one and get there before anyone else? With our aristocrat specifically, the character who can claim authority if there's no other aristocrats in the city. And the idea was we would be there faster than anyone else because everyone else takes 3 turns to get there, right? This route didn't used to exist. People start on the edge of the map. It takes everyone on the map 3 turns to get to Kingsland. And Highwayman said yes, but unfortunately, the conversation with Highwayman over the cost and stuff like that took so many messages, it used up almost all of our dashes for the entire turn. And Highwayman wasn't happy about that either. Highwayman was like, you're wasting my dashes too. God damn it. We had eventually agreed that we were going to pay the Highwayman 4 Electrum, which is a massive amount of Electrum, to get Kingsland. We paid 1.5 up front to create the route, and then we were going to pay the rest when we got to Kingsland. Now, when we were relatively, not that close to the checkpoint, but getting towards the checkpoint, Aeronaut suddenly picked up an aristocrat over here, started ferrying them towards Kingsland, and then messaged us saying, hey, I'm going to get there first, like before you, I see what you're trying to do here. If you pay me 3 Electrum, I'll turn around. We were like, whoa, okay, we don't have 7 Electrum. And as good as Kingsland is, I don't think we can afford to pay 4 for the Highwayman to get us there, and 3 for the Aeronaut to turn around. 7 Electrum, that's basically like 3 turns worth of Electrum there, meaning we can't pay anyone else for all that time. Now, we do get more Electrum out of Kingsland, of course, but we can't afford that, so we had to go to the Aeronaut and say, sorry, we can't afford that, I guess you're going to get there first. And annoyingly, he only arrived like 15 minutes before we would have gotten there. But yeah, he made it there, and then we had to message the Highwayman to say, hey, I'm sorry, we can't take Kingsland anymore, so we're not going to pay you the rest of the 4 because we didn't take Kingsland off of this, right? But we did pay you the 1.5 initially, and I think that's a pretty good amount for creating 1 route. So he can't be that mad at us, although I think he is pretty mad at us because we wasted all his dashes for the turn. So we ended up going to Xeric instead with our Aristo and just claiming the monument. People don't like claiming monuments on day 1. You can see we're the only people on the entire board to have claimed monuments at this point. I don't know how many of these were neutralized in combat and how many of them were just, there, but no one used any aristocrats on them. I know that much. So people just don't want them because they don't seem particularly useful. You can't, these other places you can collect resources from and upgrade and stuff like that. The monuments just gather, they just gather renown, which is the win condition for the game, right? The faction with the most renown wins, and you can see that we currently have 33. Everyone else is really low on renown compared to us because they don't own monuments, but it's only useful at the very end of the game. So if you're holding the monuments now, it's like that's not, there's no point to that, right? It's whatever. You have to, unless you can hold them for the entire game, they're not that great. And in the meantime, they take 5 units to like hold, so we're super spread out now as well. And if you want to upgrade them or anything, you have to pay credits and steal. It's like not great. The one thing we did with this, and people who have seen my previous games as factions, well, I guess I've only recorded one of the previous games as a faction, but hey, well, no, I am in love with airships, just generally. I love launching airships. I just do it constantly every single time, right? And you'll note that we have an airship here and no one else does. And usually, if someone builds an airship, there's a cascade of like certain other people building airships. But it's really important to note that due to an update, which was actually also in the game when I was playing as the Aeronaut last time, building these airships as a faction is more difficult. Because you used to be able to just build an airship yard, and then as soon as you had the airship yard built, you could launch any number of airships from that city as long as you pay the 7 steel for each. 7 steel is pricey, but it's not unachievable, right? And particularly early on, that's, if you have the 7 steel, you can throw it into that, it's fine, it doesn't get in the way of you doing anything else. That's not the case anymore. Now, building an airship, you get an airship yard automatically in every city, right? So you can always launch airships, but the building airship action takes your city's action for the turn. So if you build an airship, you cannot collect resources, you cannot renovate a city, you probably don't want to renovate a city anyway, that tends to be inefficient, and you can't upgrade your city. And for most cities early on in the game, those city actions are incredibly valuable. You can see here right now, I can collect 2 Electrum from this city, right? If I move my planner over there, which is what I am doing, and I overwork it, I can actually collect 4 Electrum from the city. It's a massive amount of Electrum, right? If I wanted to collect from here, I can't right now, but I could collect 2 steel from this city if I hadn't overworked it on the previous turn. It's absolutely fantastic. And like, these ones are a little less useful. You can collect credits or luxuries. Credits you use for collecting from cities in the first place. You need to keep a decent supply of these, but they're you don't need many of them, right? You just need 1 per city you're collecting from. And luxuries, they work towards the agent bids at the end of the turn. And they have become a lot more useful than they used to be, purely because a lot of these agents are better than they used to be, especially on the very last turn. So you do kind of want to get luxuries. They're still not as valuable as like steel or electrum are, but you do still want to get them, ideally. So building an airship stops you on both of those, and since most people only have these 2 types of cities that you really want to be collecting from very early on, they didn't have the ability to launch an airship, right? Because if they launch an airship, it interrupts their collecting process. However, we had Zarek, we had the monument. So we could just be like, okay, I'm going to launch an airship from this monument, because monuments are useless in the early game. They're completely useless. You could increase their renown, right? Do we really want to increase the monument's renown? Not really. It just means these people are more likely to attack us. So that's whatever. You can renovate the city. It is maybe worth renovating on a monument, but bear in mind it does lose you the turn on that monument, so you won't see any gain from it until the following turn, right? And you can upgrade it. This is one thing where it can actually be useful, because this special ability at the monument that you can upgrade, all armies mustered in the city get +1 support, is incredible if you're fighting in this area. But we're not fighting in this area, so it doesn't really matter that much, right? So we were able to launch an airship from Zarek. Now, 7 steel was a huge investment for turn 1. Thankfully, we got a good deal for getting steel off the merchant on turn 1. We got 3 steel for 2.2 Electrum, I think, which is like 0.7 steel each, a little bit more than 0.7 Electrum each, a little bit more than 0.7 Electrum each. It's generally a good exchange rate, I think, and we were able to get the airship in the air thanks to that. And that also made us best friends with the aeronaut, because it meant the aeronaut can sell us his services. And aeronaut is incredibly happy to see an airship up early in the game. You may have seen my last video, right, where I was the aeronaut desperately trying to convince people to get airships up by basically offering my services for free if anyone did, because no one wants to. Exactly because it takes so much steel and it takes your city action. But we managed to make friends with the aeronaut that way. We have his quartermaster on board the Maelstrom. They're not being sold to us for incredibly cheap. It's 0.9 now, which is, I'd say, too expensive. But we are keeping a good relationship with him, which is the important part there. And we get a trade good each turn from that. So it's a little on the expensive side for a trade good. I think you would generally want to pay less than, a bit less than that, like 0.8 or 0.7. But it's alright. But anyway, in the end, I've gone off on a very, very long tangent. We went to Zarek instead of Kingsland. Young Empire got Kingsland. Thankfully, Young Empire getting Kingsland scared everyone else into thinking Young Empire are the biggest threat on the board, right? So there was less of a focus on us. I think there might be more of a focus on us this turn, purely because we have 6 cities, even though 2 of those cities are fairly useless. I'd say the actual biggest threat on the board right now is probably Arcforge, because they have 3 factories, which is a bit absurd. It means they can pump steel out. In the actual combat phase, we just took the Theatre and Unsanctuary. We didn't have them quite yet, but we were completely peaceful with the rest of our neighbours. And then going into the following turn now, right? We have not done all that much so far. We've chatted a bit with certain factions. I was pretty desperately trying to get one more steel, because I need 2 steel to upgrade Jester Crest. You can see Overflow Fats and Harvester I would really like to get. You can technically make it cheaper by getting Infrastructure, which is a free upgrade, but this is a waste of a turn. Taking 1 turn to reduce future upgrades by 1 is a really bad idea. You then have to spend another turn doing the upgrade in the future, and Days Without Strife only takes 5 days. You only get 5 turns for the entire thing. If you get these upgrades late in the game, they're pretty damn useless, right? They're only going to have their impact for the last 2 turns in that case. It's still better than not doing anything, but this is a throwaway action if you can't do anything else. So I really wanted to get the extra steel, because I've got 1 steel from the trade good here. I asked the merchant, because merchant is usually the best place to get steel. He can generate it. And he went ahead and said, I'm sorry, my steel generating guy has been shot by the spy master, so I can't help you on that front, but I can offer you trade goods. And I was like, yeah, absolutely, we can take a trade good. How much do you want for a trade good? And he said 1 commend or 1 electrum. I was like, perfect. All right, I've got 1 commend. I'll go ahead and commend you. Now, the problem with using a commend is that it's not technically part of the transaction, right? You have to do it separately. And I was thinking, like, do I wait for him to accept the trade deal that I've sent him and give us the 1 trade good, or do I, like, show goodwill and commend him up front so that we can, you know, get this thing locked in? He doesn't feel like we're about to be scamming him. So I went ahead and commended him and said, hey, okay, send the trade good when you're ready. And then he got back to us and said, oh, actually, one of the other factions offered me 1.5 for the trade good. I'm like, what? What? You already sold it to us. Why? You can't do that. You can't take the payment and then say someone else paid more. Well, actually, he can, and he did. And then I was like, okay, you know what? I can offer an extra 0.7. That's a pretty massive amount for 1 trade good, 1.7, but at least we get the steel, right? We desperately need the steel. Very little other places that we can get that steel from on this turn. And unfortunately, he'd already sold it to the other faction. So we were kind of screwed. He has said he's very sorry, and if his Ironmonger is alive next turn, he can give us 2 steel for free. And I'd accept that. I think that's more than fair, but I don't love that he did this in the first place, and I have no idea where I'm going to get that extra steel from now. So that's the drama for this turn. There's very little else has been going on. I asked the Spy Master how much it would cost to tranquilize a military leader in Aradas, because you'll see they brought 10 units. They built 10 units in Aradas. They could have put that in Gold Shirt and like positioned it against the Rosemore and the Young Empire, but here it is only positioned against Cobalt. So I have a feeling it's going to be invading us. So I asked the Spy Master how much would it cost to tranquilize. Last time they set their tranquilize cost at 0.7, which is super reasonable. In fact, I'd say it's very cheap. But that might have just been to try and get the ball rolling on a turn where people wouldn't tranquilize much otherwise. So I was waiting to hear something like 1.2, which would be quite reasonable. They came back and said 2.8, which is absolutely absurd. It's not absurd if we're desperate for it, but it's a lot of money. That's a lot of Electrum and means we won't have very much to pay other people with, right? So I've gotten back to them and said, look, we'll have to consider that. That's a very pricey amount, but we're going to set up a forum in Xeric so that we can talk to you anyway. Saurians want us to set up a forum too, so we can talk to them. So that makes sense, right? We'll figure that out later. We might end up paying for it anyway, because I'm going to overwork Cobalt to get that 4 Electrum here. And we're going to have 4 Electrum. We're not going to have that much to spend it on. If we can get the Wanderer to offer a helping hand, that could be pretty huge. But I don't know how he gets over here. We might need to find some other ways to get a trade good, but I have no idea how we do that. Maybe we just buy a steel from another faction. I don't know. We'll see how things go here. But that's the current state of things. Do I think our position is good? I kind of like it. I don't love that we have so many monuments and that we are so far ahead of everyone on Renown, because I think people are going to focus us a bit. for this, and they really don't need to. There's other people who are further ahead right now. But hopefully our diplomacy can beat them on that, right? Oh, one thing I didn't mention, the agent bidding. We bid for the Firebrand, a military agent. They gain twice as much renown per combat. So we need to have this person in combat every phase, right? There were a lot of military leaders for sale last turn, so there wasn't as much competition for them, and we felt this was the best one for our interests, so we went ahead and bid on the Firebrand, but it is going to mean that our renown goes up very quickly as well, which is going to make us even more of a threat. We'll see what happens there. I guess I'll update you either towards the end of this phase or tomorrow. We'll see how things go. Okay, very quick late day 2 update here. There's a fair bit that's happened, but also not that much that's actively happened, right? So the very first thing that happened after my last recording was that the aeronaut ship started chasing us down this way. And we had our ship here, right? It started coming towards us. I was like, oh my god, I think that's preparing to shoot us. I'm gonna order it to go back this way. And then Aeronaut, like, when we were in recess at the time, which is a new mechanic to try and make Days Without Strife a little less strifeful, so you don't need to be paying attention to it all the time, right? It means that the forums are in recess, you can't talk to anyone for the last hour of the phase, for the last hour of each checkpoint outside of these Telegram messages. So it becomes a much more slow-paced game during that. It's honestly been quite nice. I've liked that mechanic. But I didn't like it in that moment because it meant we couldn't talk to the aeronaut while he was chasing us down. We're like, oh my god, our ship goes half the speed of his. He is gonna catch us. But thankfully we managed to stay away from him long enough for the recess to be over. We then started talking to him and he was like, yeah, I've been paid to shoot out your city guns. If you shoot out my deck guns, which are the guns that can shoot out the city guns, because it's technically a speed duel, right? We could shoot him out as soon as he comes into range, and then he can't shoot us out, but then we can't use our city guns anyway, so it's not great. He said if we did that, he would jump the quartermaster off the ship, which was honestly really rude, because we had already paid for that. But he also said, I'm willing to be outbid on my current thing of shooting out your guns if you give me 0.9. And there's this thing of, in the last game when I was the aeronaut, I made this thing of, you know, I constantly went to people who I hadn't been paid to attack, and then said I'd been paid to attack them, and took their money to not attack them, right? And it might well have been the same thing here, but it did work, because we could not afford to lose those deck guns. We can't repair them without recruiting the Skywrite, who is also an aeronaut person, and who he was pricing quite highly, right? So, so we ended up paying the aeronaut, and he turned around. We paid him 0.9 for that. We ended up collecting, overworking Electrum at Cobalt, which gave us 4 Electrum. That's a lot to work with. And if you remember correctly, the Spymaster was offering to tranquilize the Saurians at Aridias even, for 2.8 Electrum, which would have been almost all of the rest of our money. We ended up thinking, yeah, okay, we're going to go with that, because that seems like the best plan of action here. Moving our military leaders out this way, and moving our airship out this way towards Aridias as well. And we were going to go and confirm with the Spymaster, hey, we can pay you the 2.8, and then Arcforge approached us. And because Spymaster at this point, the Saurians had joined the forum in Xeric, so we couldn't talk to the Spymaster outside of... We could kick the Saurians out of the forum and then talk to the Spymaster, but then it becomes a bit obvious what we're talking about, right? Why would we kick the Saurians out if it wasn't against them? So we didn't have a private communication route with the Spymaster except telegrams, and we were quite low on dashes, so we didn't want to use that either. Arcforge do have a private forum with the Spymaster over here, so they were talking with the Spymaster. They came to us and said, hey, Spymaster is lowering her prices just to make sure that you purchase them, right? Would you pay 0.7 Electrum for that same Tranquilize? We're like, oh yeah, hell yeah, we will. We were going to pay 2.8. We obviously don't jump at it because we don't want her to think, oh, I should have charged much, much higher for that. But we did. We went, yes, absolutely, we will pay that amount. And Arcforge tried to say, hey, I'll tranquilize someone for you as well for another 0.7. but they wanted the payment up front before they'd done anything, and I'm willing to pay the Spymaster up front. I'm not willing to pay our direct competition up front, especially considering it didn't look like they had anyone in range of to actually tranquilize the Saurians. So we turned down that one, but we did pay the Spymaster to tranquilize the Saurians. Now, up until this last checkpoint, there was a Saurian commander sitting in Aridias, and a Saurian marshal sitting in Egrind. Now, the Saurians claimed that this was because they wanted those 10 units in Aridas to go and defend Goldshore. That's a tough thing to buy, right? Because those 10 units, well, for one, that 10 unit stack is obviously, the Cobalt is like the one that it can go for. The excuse that they were giving was they wanted to use that 10 unit stack at the start of the phase to go for Kingsland, constructing a highwayman route. They ran out of Electrum, they couldn't pay the Electrum for the route, so they weren't able to go that way. It makes sense, but it's a lot of coincidences, right? And it all stacks up for them being adjacent to us. And being able to attack us. And with the commander there, they've got first strike. We had to govern our commander in Unsank because the Arcforge were panicking about us being there. We wanted peace with them, so we set him as the governor so we couldn't attack them. And they said they'd move their commander out this way at the same time, and they paid the aeronaut to go and shoot these cities. So we were fairly certain they were, like, that was correct. So we had this long discussion with the Saurians. The Saurians were going, you know, don't do this, because they saw our airship coming, right? They were like, we do not shoot our city at Aridias. We will fortify it, so you can't shoot it. And that's a waste of 4 Electrum for us. It's a waste of your airship ability for you, right? And it creates this conflict between us, and we will declare war on you if you do that. And we're just like, well, there's not a lot we can do here to stop that, right? Like, we want to get something this turn, because a lot of our cities are going to be very low on Electrum. You can see I did manage to upgrade Jester Crest this turn. I got the steel that the merchant scammed me out of. He's offered a recompense on the next turn. We'll see if he actually gives it. But I eventually got the steel from... who was it? I think it was Imperials? Yeah, the Imperials offered it to us for 0.7, which was actually much cheaper, but of course, we had already paid the merchant, so we ended up paying 1.7 for that. But I got the steel that I needed to upgrade Jester Crest, so we've got some stuff here, but you'll note that the Electrum here is kind of low. We would want to collect the other resources, ideally. So Electrum, we're not getting much Electrum from there. If we look at Cobalt here... where is the... oh, it's behind the airship. Hang on. No, sorry, it's here. If you look at Cobalt here, again, lots of steel, lots of copper here, or brass, or whatever it's called. It's brass. But no Electrum. So we're going to have struggle to pay the wildcards, and we really need to pay the wildcards. It's really the key to doing well in this game, right? So we want to expand somewhere. We wanted that to be Aridias. We were seeing if there was any way to do that, and the Saurians came to Xeric to talk in that forum, and they basically threatened us, going, we are going to war with you forever if you are doing this. Like, we are going to 100% commit against you. And, like, at that point, you wonder, is it worth it? We were calculating, if we had shot Aridias, I think they were bluffing about the fortification thing, because keeping 4 steel on hand is really hard to do when you're trying to upgrade these cities, right? And if they don't have the fortification there, and we actually do manage to tranquilize their commander, I think we're guaranteed to take Aridias if we run into it and have the airship supporting it. It's a lot of multipliers over the city, and that would increase our unit strength quite significantly. So we really wanted to go that way, but ending up in an eternal war with the Saurians is not really something we want to do, especially just over Aridias, because nothing else that we could gain from this is all that useful. We could get Scalefall. Scalefall generates luxuries and capital, and they're useful, but they're not incredible, right? The main use of it would be as a buffer to make sure that we keep Xeric into the late game. So we eventually accepted, okay, look, we'll stop moving our thing towards you. After a lot of debate internally, we're going to go the other way. And we were, and we also redirected our marshal to go south instead of to Xeric, and then they moved to Scalefall, so they might be invading us in Xeric anyway, which would be really nasty of them, to be honest. But in fact, actually, can they take it? Yeah, their marshal has 2 renown. They can absolutely take Xeric if they want to. It's really nasty of them, but it doesn't actually give them that much because the monuments don't immediately do anything for you unless you want to build an airship out of them, right? You need to own them at the end of the game. So we don't mind the fact that we're losing that so much if they do betray us. They had to move out of Iridias because we did pay the Spymaster that 0.7, and that's the Spymaster's agent right there. They went to Iridias to try and tranquilize the commander. Commander slipped the other way. The Saurians told us outright that they moved that unit because they knew there was a tranquilize coming, but they seemed to suspect that it was someone else doing it, like either the Rosemore or the or the Imperials. I'm hoping that's the case. If they suspect that we're doing it, then maybe we do end up at war. I'm really hoping we don't. Our backup plan, since we decided not to go for Iridias, was to go for Kingsland. And I've mentioned before, Kingsland is an incredible place. It's doubly incredible right now because they governed it with the Builder. Builder gives the city its 3rd upgrade for free. The 3rd upgrade of this kind of city, a metropolis, is to give you, whenever you collect from it, you get the 2 trade goods as per usual, but you also get an express ticket, which lets you move your one of your units anywhere on the map, which is incredibly strong. It's absurdly strong. You can go somewhere and tranquilize someone with a Diplo agent. You can get your commander to somewhere to, like, to a front line that he's nowhere near, completely surprising the opponent, right? If you have a massive threat on your border, you can just jump a unit in and tranquilize them. It's absolutely fantastic. So that's brilliant, and the fact that if we own it on this next turn, they didn't overwork it this turn, right? We can potentially overwork it with the planner, who's only 1 stop away, 1 train line, and then we get 4 trade goods and 2 express tickets. That's absurd. The problem with this is how the hell are we going to take the single most defended place on the entire board? 15 units in that location, bloody hell. Now, the advantage for us is that Arcforge paid the aeronaut to come down and shoot this area. So the Imperials got terrified, they moved all their military leaders down here. Some of them got tranquilized, right? The commander's been tranquilized here. Marshal is all the way at the back over here. There was a potential issue with the Brotherhood Barbarian that the Imperials could hire, except the Spymaster shot him to stop the Brotherhood getting paid anything. So that's fantastic as well. The Highwayman route going in would reduce the army strength by half, except we bought an alliance with the Highwayman, so that won't impact us. And there's just nothing in here to provide any strength or any boost, so it is just a flat 15 strength. So if we can add enough strength multipliers to this, we can absolutely take that city. Now, Aeronaut is also coming here to defend Kingsland, so we're hoping that we can, like, reasonably make that happen. Oh my god, I'm just realizing that might actually do it, because 1 strength for them is not equal to 1 strength for us. We've got 5 units, they've got 15. Well, we'll see about that. I need to talk to the aeronaut some more, which is more reason for me to wrap this up quickly. Our backup plan is to attack Kingsland. We think we can get it. It would be a bit of a miracle, but we think we can get it. So we've focused all our forces on that. We're going to go and try and take it. And then, in the meantime, something that I did predict in the team chat was that there was this Highwayman just sitting in Unsanctuary for the entire round. You're just like, they don't just sit a unit there without it doing anything, right? Highwaymen can create these Highwayman routes, as long as there is a Highwayman unit on both sides of the train route. And you'll note there's no Highwayman unit adjacent to this city, right? But the Highwayman base counts as a unit for them. So instead of creating a Highwayman route like the trapped route, they actually just created a brand new route on the map. You can see that they have the ability to do that between various places. You can see them here, right? And they could create that between Unsank and Qantas. And I mentioned this to the team. I thought that seems like the most likely thing it will do, because there's nothing else it can really do from there, which would be the Archforge attacking us, right? And we were like, is that realistic? Maybe it's a Spy Master unit disguised, right? And I'm just being overly paranoid. So we put it to the side, and then on the final checkpoint, the Archforge moved back to Qantas, the Highwayman makes this bridge, and they are going to attack us. But it's a monument, so it doesn't matter a huge amount. The Archforge's reasoning for this is so stupid. They want a line of completely uninhabited, like, neutral cities between us in order to have this area, like, completely demilitarized and apparently to form a strong alliance. It's a terrible idea. It means the Renegade will be able to spawn in the area and attack us both. But this Archforge player is not really very reasonable. They wouldn't talk over anything with us. I think it might just not be the correct reasoning, right? They just want to invade. So it's what it is. I'll leave that. Anyway, so we are probably losing on Sanctuary. We might be losing Zarek as well. So we are going to try and throw everything we can at Kingsland and hope that's enough. I guess I'll give another update probably in the morning, and you'll be able to see how things turned out. Okay, final day 2 update. So as you may have realized, we were going for Kingsland. I was trying to figure out what we were going to do about the Aeronaut, right? The fact that the Aeronaut would double their strength as well as ours, which I think would have been fine if he was doubling both. We had an alliance with him at the time, but I wasn't sure. I hadn't mathed it out, so I was going to go and math it out and see if we needed to offer him something to break his alliance with the Imperials. He'd clearly been paid to bring the airship up. Notably, he had been paid to keep the airship around Nighthold and Digsite by the Archforge before that, and then he'd just gone, there's no point, there's nothing that can attack you, I'm going to go up here. And the Archforge had been, well, we paid for you to stay here, you need to stay here, we're going to put, there could be a Renegade unit that rises up in Digsite, right? And Aeronaut went, it doesn't matter, you wouldn't lose the city if the Renegade took it, because Renegade has been changed a little bit, so I'm going off the other way. So that should have been a slight warning sign that the Aeronaut doesn't keep to his word. It's on top of that the fact that he threatened us earlier to jump his quartermaster out of the airship if we shot at him, right, after we'd already paid for the quartermaster. That's another big red flag that we shouldn't really be trusting the Aeronaut. And then it got towards recess. We were a couple minutes before recess, and this actually happened while I was recording the last video, so my team had to handle it without me. He goes in and says, hey, I'm going to be disbanding the alliance with you, because... Where is this? Peerless Peak. Okay, that's fine. Because the Imperials told me that I have to. And it's like, oh, well, I don't love that. Because he told, I wouldn't mind it necessarily, because we didn't pay him for the alliance in the first place, right? We got the alliance for free as part of his requirements, because he wanted to, this was alongside the 0.9 for not shooting us. He added an alliance there because he didn't want to get denounced. He didn't have an alliance with anyone, and if you, as a wildcard, get denounced while you don't have an alliance with everyone, it hurts you in some way. In the Aeronaut's case, it damages everything on his ship except the engines, which is pretty crippling to him. So he got an alliance with us so that if anyone denounces him, it bounces onto us, right? And I wouldn't mind him disbanding that alliance, because we didn't technically pay for the alliance. He just added that in himself. Except, when he started moving up towards Kingsland, I messaged him and said, hey, you know, I'm fine with you allying with Imperials if you're paid to do that. Is what it is. You know, we're kind of expecting that will happen. But please don't disband your alliance with us, because we need that support too. As long as you don't disband your alliance with us, it's fine. Are you going to disband your alliance with us? And he goes, no, I will 100% keep the alliance with you no matter what. And so I thought, okay, fine, I can go do my recording then. And then, while I was recording, he went back on his word. And he did it so close to recess that we didn't have time to make a counteroffer or to complain at him or anything like that. There was no chance to respond. The forums went into recess. He sent us a telegram reiterating his thing, and then here, He also was accusatory towards us. You never paid separately for support. We know that. If you'd have said a bit earlier, hey, I'm gonna disband my alliance with you unless you guys pay something or something like that, we probably would have offered him Electrum to stick with him. But no, he just stabbed us in the back when we couldn't respond, and we got no dashes to send him any messages. So that was a problem. So we couldn't take Kingsland anymore. The logistics of it just doesn't work. If the Hurricane is there doubling the unit count here, right, that doubles that to 16. We're getting +1 from, well, so a defensive army always has one support, regardless of whether they have a military leader or not. An attacking army has support equal to the renown of their leading officer, which is 1 for us as well. So that's on equal footing. We're doubling by going across the highwayman route, and we're doubling by having the Maelstrom supporting. So that brings us up to, well, not doubling, sorry, multiplying by 3. So it's 2 support. We've got 3 supports total. We've got the Firebrands 1 renown. We've got the highwayman route, which we're allied with the highwayman, and we've got our airship. And so that triples our attack strength to 15. But he's being doubled to 16, so he would win just, like, literally only just. It's so painful, because otherwise we would have Kingsland, right? And that would be such a fantastic asset to us, but we can't take it. So we've made other plans. We got a message from the Saurians asking whether we wanted to skirmish in Xeric. That was a bit of a worrying thing, because we couldn't respond to them, because we have no dashes left to talk to them, of course. And we can't tell them not to attack Xeric, right? So we were considering sending the Firebrand up to defend Xeric, but then the Saurians did something really smart here, right? No dashes, can skirmish in Aridias, accept equals Xeric, reject equals Aridias, no response equals no skirmish. So they gave us 3 options there, and it was in such a way that we didn't have to spend any dashes to respond to them. We just replied to the trade offer in the way they were talking, right? In the way they wanted us to. So if we accepted that trade offer, we're attacking Xeric together. If we reject it, we're attacking Aridias. And if we don't respond, then there's no skirmish at all. You might be wondering, why do you want to skirmish? Well, military leaders gain 1 renown every time they attack something. So you really want to be attacking something even if you're not going to take it, right? And arranged skirmishing is a way to do that. So given that we're not going to take Kingsland anyway, we're going to run this army into Aridias. They're going to run their army into Aridias, I hope, anyway. Seems like they're being honest. And we are going to fight and both gain renown. And for us, that's incredibly important as well, because Firebrand's thing gains twice as much renown every time they go into combat. So that's going to go up to 3, which also makes them much stronger for fighting in the future. Right, so that's about where we're at. We do not trust the aeronaut. We were thinking, is there anything else we can do here? Like, can we go and shoot the Hurricane's, like, deck guns out so that he can't threaten us anymore? Do we kidnap his quartermaster? Because his quartermaster is on board this ship, right? You can see we've got him here. Went on an airship at the start of the turn, owner gains 1 trade good. We could just keep this ship away from cities and guarantee that trade good every turn without having to pay him. That screws him over as well. And we are quite angry with him, but it's probably not worth. We couldn't reach him to shoot out his deck guns. It's probably not worth alienating a wild card in any case. He might just decide that he wants to come shoot us after that, right? So we're going to figure out what to do going forward. I think what we might do is not pay for the quartermaster up front this coming turn. Say, hey, we're going to pay for your quartermaster when we get the trade good from it at the end of day 3 going into day 4. And then he will be stuck on the ship until day 4, and then on day 4 we can just keep the ship away from the cities, and then he can't hop it off and we can get it for free, right? And that's sort of our retaliation for what he did here, because he has denied us 4 trade goods. 4 trade goods! Like, think about how much that is. How much we would have been willing to offer him not to do that. Because the 4 trade goods is enormous. You can turn it into 4 Electrum, right? So theoretically, it would have been worth it for us to offer him 4 Electrum to do this. I don't know that we would have done that. Obviously, we couldn't pay it up front. We would have had to pay some of it later. And we only really want Kingsland if we get something out of it ourselves as well, so we want to keep some percentage of that. But, like, he could have got a lot of money out of us by asking us to counter-offer that, but we couldn't respond to him because he did it after the recess. And while we were actually questioning him about it, he lied. He said, I won't do that ever, no matter what. So he's screwed himself out of money, and he's made us not trust him at all. You can tell that I'm a little bit raged about that. I think we're in a good spot going into the last year. Not as good of a spot as all these people who have 3 factories and Kingsland and whatnot. And annoyingly, everyone seems to think we're the big bad guys because we have the most renown right now, but that's just because we own monuments and they don't, right? And everyone else is ahead of us economically except Rosemore, who are doing not very well, but they are about to take a bunch of stuff, I think, so let's see what happens with that. So we might end up being the targets of some people here. It would be a bit of a shame, but it is what it is. But going into the last day, the fact that we have this alliance that we've made with the Saurians is really important. There's something I didn't talk enough about in the last update as well, and that is the Spy Master. So I talked about the fact that we hired the Spy Master to tranquilize Aridias. I did not talk about the fact that the Spy Master pitched us on a plan. And the Spy Master's plan, because Spy Master has bases here, right, in the Arcforge area, and here in our area, and they've been working with us two more closely than with anyone else. In fact, I don't know if they've actually worked with anyone else at all during this game. They have said that their plan is to try and get us and the Arcforge into 1st and 2nd place. Arcforge is tanking that the chances of that a little bit by going to war with us here, but supposedly it's just to create a neutral border. We'll see whether that's true or not going into the next turn. So Spy Master's plan is to put us into 1st and 2nd place and then hope to be rewarded a lot on the final day for doing so. I don't know that that's a good plan. I get the idea of that because winning as the Spy Master is really hard. Spy Master's kit is not good enough at the moment. It revolves a lot around these tranquilizers, right? And people don't consider the tranquilizers early in the phase, where you see stuff like the Merchant and whatnot. Tranquilizers are really good, but you see stuff like the Merchant and the Steel, and you go, I need Steel, I'm going to pay the Merchant, right? Stuff like that. And Spy Master has to be in the right place at the right time. They have to be planned for this tranquilize to happen, and people don't really know where the military leaders are going to be at the end of the day, so they can't plan around that as much. It's tough to get enough money as the Spy Master, so this is a different route to go. The problem with it, I think, is that because they're not asking for any specific amount of money to do anything, they're just saying, hey, I'm going to push you guys up into 1st and 2nd and then hope to be rewarded, we might just have used up all our money in trying to get ahead of the Arcforge by the point that they want to be rewarded, and they're not going to be rewarded very much. It is very reliant on us having a lot of Electrum left at the end of the game, and I don't know whether that'll be the case. We'll see when we get there. I didn't go into the specifics of the Spy Master plan. So the Spy Master's plan, you may have seen at the start of the phase, in fact I don't know if I mentioned it, the Spy Master tranquilized the Ironmonger, who is the merchant guy who can get steel. Right, that was why the Merchant didn't have much steel to sell and ended up promising the trade goods that can be turned into steel to multiple people and then getting paid by multiple people and only giving it to one of them and screwing us over as well. But he has offered us a trade good on the next turn. It's down from the 2 steel that he offered us initially, but he's offered us a trade good on the next turn to make up for it, so I'm hoping he follows through on that. It at least gives us our 1 Electrum back. But they tranquilize that purely to pull down the other wildcards, right? And you can see that they tranquilize the Brotherhood Barbarian in Kingsland for exactly the same reason. They're using their abilities to pull down other wildcards without being paid for it. So that's a rough strategy to make work because you're only harming 1 wildcard each time you do that, and there are another 5 who are getting an edge on you because you didn't sell that to someone, right? But they have been doing that so far, and they're now adapting that strategy to fight the factions. So what they're planning to do is they're planning to go in and tranquilize specific key faction members who can do a lot, namely the planners, who can overwork things and get tons of resources. They're planning to go in and trank those planners so that they can't overwork anything. and they're planning to do that at the very start of the phase. So yeah, that's their plan for the rest of the game. At the start of every turn, so for 3 days, they're going to just go and tranquilize all of the planners on this side of the board, which is amazing for us. Like, that cripples the other side so much economically. I think we made a really good call getting the Spymaster base and talking a bunch to the Spymaster and working with them at this early stage, right? Those tranquilizers can be so important. But we're going to have to find a way to get ahead of Arcforge as well, and this definitely isn't going to win the game by itself. We'll see what happens with that. Alright, so combat is imminent. It's going to happen momentarily. We're going to see what we gain, what we lose. We are probably going to gain nothing and lose on Sanctuary, and that's it. But our Firebrand will march into Iridius. You can see we're ordering to skirmish in Iridius, which means we'll gain a little bit of renown. That has just happened. We got the here, so we're now on 3 renown. We didn't take anything there, right? And we did lose on Sanctuary, which was what we were expecting to happen, right? And what they're saying they'll do now is put 0 military units in on Sanctuary so that it turns neutral, and 0 on Leafburn so that it turns neutral, so we have this big neutral border between us. It's an interesting plan. I don't like it, but it's what they decided to do and we couldn't do anything about it, so it is what it is. I didn't talk about the agent bidding, but we bid on this guy, the Ascendant. There weren't a lot of good agents there, but this is when this agent... Oh, it's when this agent's army captures a city, gain 1 renown. That did not show like that on the agent bidding screen. It said whenever you capture a city, gain 1 renown, which I thought would have been much, much better. But, well, I guess we need to make sure that he captures cities then. He just seems like a very much worse version of the Firebrand, right? Gains twice as much renown every time they attack. They don't even need to capture the city. And the Ascendant, yes, so we ended up getting him anyway. There weren't a lot of good options in there. There was the Industrialist, right? When you appointed governor, all adjacent cities you control gain the infrastructure upgrade. Very good if you're upgrading stuff, but I don't know that we are. And there were a few other things that I can probably look at. The Vinter here, as governor, increase yield by +2 when collecting luxuries. I am incredulous that these guys managed to keep Goldshore. Oh, okay, so the Rosemore actually went this way. I was expecting them to go up into the Saurians, but they decided not to. You can see that the Rose all marched away from the Saurians, so they're actually allied with the Saurians. Makes me think we're in a slightly worse position than I thought we were, because if Saurian is allied with everyone adjacent, then they don't have anywhere to expand, right? So they're probably going to come into us at some point. We'll see what happens there. I need to get back to this, to actually talking to people while the forums aren't in recess. So I'll talk more about the situation tomorrow and how everything is looking. Okay, so it's most of the way through day 3. I say most of the way, just past halfway, but we're getting towards the point where we're now thinking more about combat than anything else, right? So a fair few things have happened today. First things first, the Aeronaut managed to kidnap the Brotherhood Builder. I have no idea how they did that. I think maybe the Imperials hopped the Builder aboard the Hurricane, and then Aero just went, yeah, no, I'm gonna brig that, and shoved him in the brig, right? It's also possible that Brotherhood did it themselves and hopped on board to try and talk to people, and then Aero went, nope, you are not doing that. So the Aeronaut had the Builder brigged, and was offering people that for 2 brass, or 2 steel, and 2 brass is considerably less useful, so really 2 brass, he would be willing to free the Brotherhood Builder. Now, the Builder's ability is actually insane. I will go ahead and show you it here, as Governor gives his city its 3rd upgrade for free. Now, 3rd upgrade means the 3rd one in the list, the unique one to that city. You can see for hub cities, it's fine dining. Whenever resources are collected from the city, gain 2 bonus luxuries. Pretty good if you're looking for luxuries, right? For monuments, it's really good. It means that all armies mustered in the city get +1 support, so defensively or aggressively, you've got that multiplier on your armies, right? But notably for a foundry, it is overflow vats. And overflow vats, after collection, the 2 resource vats that are not collected get +1 to their vats. And they already get +1 to their vats when you collect one of the things, so it means you're getting +2 to the other vats every time you collect. Right, and you can see, so for example, here, there's 1 steel in the vat, there's 3 brass in the vat, there's 0 electrum, because that currently has no upgrades on it, that city. If I collected, say, steel next turn, I'd get the 1 steel, and then this vat would be boosted to +4, and this vat would be boosted to 1. And then on the following turn, I could choose which of those vats to collect, and so on and so forth. Now, in Jester Crest, because we overworked it, and then yesterday we got enough steel to upgrade it, I was debating, do I want to go Overflow Vats or do I want to go Harvester? Because Harvester gives you more up front. It gives you the collect yield by +1. It increases the collect yield by +1. It just gives you 1 more of whatever resource you're grabbing out of it. But Overflow Vats is strictly better over time because it adds 1 to both of the other vats. Right, so it's increasing both the count of both of the other resources. So as long as you're collecting all of the resources over time, you'll get much more out of that. I eventually ended up deciding to upgrade Harvester, just because I thought I'd probably overwork the city enough that we wouldn't get that much out of overflow vats. I wanted the stuff up front, right? But that, and completely unintentionally, that left us open to being able to use the builder on this city and get free overflow vats, and that's exactly what we did. We talked to the Brotherhood. The Brotherhood said they would sell us the builder for 0.8 Electrum. That's a bit expensive. So I just sent him a message back saying, hey, you know what? We'll give you 0.3, and we'll pay the ransom, the arrow ransom, so you'll be able to use him on future turns, and just hope that he would accept that, and he did accept that. And so then we were left with the Brotherhood builder aboard the Hurricane, but of course he was still brigged by the Arrow. We couldn't jump off the ship. So we had to talk to the Arrow and say, hey Arrow, you said you would offer that if we gave you 2 brass, you would let this guy off the ship. I can give you 2 brass. Where did we get that 2 brass from? Well, we've got a lot of brass. Some of it was from collecting in Jester Crest that turn, right? You can see that the brass count has decreased significantly. So we hadn't got that yet. We had some left over from the start of the game because we hadn't really used any, but we also had 2 from the Merchant. Because if you remember, the Merchant offered us 2 free steel on the next day in return for the fact that he scammed us out of our commend on the previous turn. He decided that he didn't want to do that, so he offered us 1 trade good instead. I think I mentioned that in the last video. Then he decided, as the day started, that he didn't want to do that either. That his trade goods and his steel were both too valuable to give away for free, so he's not going to give us any of those in recompense, but he'd be willing to give 2 of any of the other resources, credits, luxuries, or brass. And obviously we were not very happy about this, because those resources are not worth, 2 of any of those resources are not worth 1 Electrum. It's not worth the commend to us. But eventually we did go ahead and say, hey, we'll take your 2 brass. And we sent him the offer for the 2 brass, and he accepted it. Notably, at this point, we had arrested his Ironmonger. So his Ironmonger had run into our territory to escape the Spymaster, right? This is the guy who gets steel. He'd used that to get the steel that he was supposed to give us for free as recompense, and then he sold it to someone else. And we were just like, okay, well, we've got our Marshal in the area. If you tell your Marshal has the special ability here of Surveil, attempt to arrest an enemy follower. If you have an army in the area and that follower is exhausted, that follower will be arrested and will stay permanently under arrest unless someone with Thieves' Tools goes in and frees them. So because the Ironmonger had used his ability, he was then exhausted. We were able to arrest him there. And so, obviously, Merchant then had good reason to accede to our demands and actually give us something. And so he accepted the deal for 2 brass. I think we are not going to release the Ironmonger. He didn't ask, He didn't do anything for us to release his Ironmonger, and he's been continuously selling to other people, right? It seems like a good idea to keep this guy under arrest and make sure that he can't give too much steel to everyone else. It will annoy the merchant a lot that we're doing that, which means we probably can't benefit from buying his other resources. But from what I've gathered, he tends to favor other people anyway. We also know we can't necessarily trust him to actually fulfill deals, so I'd prefer to be paying the other wildcards. Okay, so that was that. We got the 2 brass off him. We gave that 2 brass to the aeronauts. Aeronaut dropped off the builder at Kingsland. They did what they said they were going to do, which was nice of them. We commended the aeronaut in exchange for keeping the quartermaster for this turn, so we're going to get another trade good out of that as well. There was also the thing of these 2 cities were neutral at the start of the day. The Archforge had kept their word over keeping these things neutral. You will note one of them isn't neutral anymore. That is because the Highwayman offered us the possibility to build a route from Cobalt to Leafburn, which you note that we did pay him for, and we paid him on the condition that we also get an alliance, and he put down a Highwayman route here. And that meant that our aristocrat, who was up here in Xeric, was able to move 1-2 spaces because they went over a highwayman route for one of the 2, and the highwayman was allied to us, so it increased the speed, get straight into Leafburn and claim Leafburn for us, because that's what the aristocrat does. If this city is neutral, appoint this agent as governor and take control. Now, I don't know that the Archforge are going to be very happy about that. I know they weren't initially very happy about that, but they've had other problems, it seems. People have paid the aeronaut to shoot at them, which has been a bit of an issue for them. So we've ended up coming to an understanding there. I think they're not going to attack it, but we might defend it just in case. We were bringing this airship right here down towards Fort Qantas. Well, at the time it wasn't Fort Qantas, it was just Qantas, to shoot out their units there so that they definitely couldn't attack Leafburn. But one of the reasons that we thought that was that we knew that the Renegade was potentially attacking us. Renegade had told us that they had been hired for one of their agents, and then they couldn't ally us because it might interfere with what they were doing, which I interpreted as they're going to attack us, right? And who would pay for the Renegade to spawn in one of these locations and attack us? Well, it's probably the Archforge. So we started heading that way to shoot out Qantas, because the Renegade herself can't neutralize the city. She can only assist other people in taking it, right? Or destroy units that are there. So as long as the Archforge don't have anything to invade it with, we should be fine. But then we got a message from the Spymaster telling us, hey, the person who paid the Renegade is actually the Saurians, the lizard people. They've paid 1.5 now, and they'll pay 1.5 next turn, and the idea is that the Renegade ties you guys down for the time being and stops you from being able to react to what's going on over here. We were like, well, yeah, that does make sense. They haven't put their Doomstack on an adjacent place to one of our cities this time. I don't like that. Why is it coming forwards? They haven't put their Doomstack next to one of our cities this turn, but they do still have units there, right? They have got all of their military leaders in this area as well. They had the steel to build an airship, and we knew they had the steel to build an airship, and so they could come in and bomb us as well. And if we lose Cobalt, that's a lot of resources we're potentially losing. Actually, it's not that much. These are not amazing counts in here, but it's still something. We don't have that many foundries to go around. So we, at that point, we turned our ship around, we talked to the Archforge and went, hey, we're not going to attack you, we're not doing anything to you. They reinforced Qantas, just in case, anyway, but they seem to be on the level with us, so that we've been sort of nice to each other, it seems. And we turned our airship around, started going this way, and Saurians panicked, and we have a unit in the Hurricane, they have a unit in the Hurricane as well, and we've just been talking for that entire time going, hey, they were going, look, we weren't the people who paid the Renegade to do this, it's not us, you're being lied to, right? And it's possible that the Spymaster is lying to us, especially considering Spymaster have indicated that they wanted Archforge to do very well as well, so they would be trying to stop us two from fighting, I assume. But Saurians did admit to hiring a renegade unit. They just said they hired it defensively. And it's hard to see how they could hire it defensively, given that these are the only places it can spawn. And this down here, but like, how is that helping them, right? The cities aren't empty anywhere else. The renegade can only spawn here or here. So we're like, I'm not sure I believe that. So we kept heading that way. They then threatened, hey, if you come this way, we are going to build an airship and attack you. And we were like, well, yeah, that was the information we got that you were going to do anyway. We heard, and we said we heard from the renegade, because we don't want to sell out the spy master, that you had hired them and that you were going for us, and then we could pay the renegade off to not attack us. And they were still very insistent that that was a lie. But then they said, look, we'll build an airship and go to war with you if you do that. You were going to do that anyway. We send our ship off this way. The aeronaut shoots us, but only the deck guns, so it means we can't shoot another ship. Someone paid them to do that. I don't know who it was. And so now the only thing our ship can really do is shoot a city, so we're like, okay, we're going to go shoot Aridas, and then everything will be fine. Okay, and then everything will be fine. We're just going to go and shoot Aridas, and then they can't attack us, right? And everything will be fine there. They said, hey, we're going to come and shoot the deck guns of your ship out. We're going to come shoot out the siege cannon of your ship so that you can't do that. And we're like, yeah, that's fine. That stops you from being able to shoot our city, because normal airships, not the aeronaut ones, can only shoot one thing a turn. So if they're shooting our ship, it's going to be annoying that our ship is damaged, but it means that they can't take out our armies in these areas, right? And at that point they went, because I don't think they expected us to call their bluff like that, and they tried heavily to negotiate some kind of other agreement. Eventually we came to the deal that they keep their airship like here, and we keep our airship like here, and now we're in this kind of standoff where neither of us really wants to move forward, because if we move forward, the other one is probably going to go. But we're both well within range of being able to shoot the other person if we really want to, and you can see that Saurians have stacked up everything they have in this city right here. So they are clearly preparing to attack us in some way. I do not love that. Now, we still got the potential problem of the renegade coming in from behind us, but we did manage to negotiate a deal with the renegade where if we pay them 0.5, they won't attack us. They wouldn't include an alliance in that, which is a bit problematic, but they were saying that was for a very reasonable reason. I think the reason they're offering us this is that we have the Marshal sitting on one of their bases, and Renegade gets a support boost for every base they have on the map. If we burn that base down, which you can do with the Marshal, then they lose that support, and they lose that support permanently. They can't get a new base in the game. We have 2 of their bases currently within our borders, so they have to be a bit nice to us, right? Otherwise we're causing them problems. So they offered us that deal. We haven't been able to pay it because we only have 0.4 Electrum. We need 0.5, so we sent a message back saying, look, we'll do 0.4 right now, we can give you 0.1 later. But since then, they haven't been online, so I don't really know what to think about that. I don't know whether we can pay them still or not. We'll need to talk to them about that when they come online. So that brings us around to the final thing, which is the Spy Master. You'll note that we said that the Spy Master had given us a ton of information over the course of the phase about who hired the Renegade and whatnot, right? They've also been incredibly helpful to us. They dropped their Spy Master unit off in Cobalt so that these guys with their envoy here, who probably has a tranquilizer, Spy Master says that unit has a tranquilizer, cannot tranquilize our Firebrand. That would be one way for them to invade us. If they take our military leader out, military leader gives 3 support to the army right now, which is a really nice amount of support. But they can't tranquilize because the Spy Master disables spy tech in this location. So the Firebrand is completely safe. The Spy Master also has an assassin in Goldshore right now. I think it is disguised as a highwayman. And they are planning to go up to Iridias and shoot one of these commanders, probably the Brigadier, who is going to be on 4. renown, I think, and so give 4 support. That's a pretty large amount of support. Usually they would be safe because I think the Envoy has a scanner to stop that sort of thing happening, but Spymaster has the ability to bypass people's scanners, so they're going to be able to tranquilize there. They were also able to tranquilize, I believe, where are they? They're not here anymore. The planner there, the Imperial planner, to stop the Imperials overworking anything, which is actually huge because it also means they can't overwork Kingsland. They can't get that double trade good that can be amazing, right? I don't know where the other unit that they tranquilized is. They definitely tranquilized someone, but I don't know who it was. It was maybe in this area? Well, I'll have to find that out later. But the Arcforge tranquilized the Wanderer, I think, to do that. Oh, it was one of the Brotherhood agents, right? No, it was the Renegade. That was what they did. So they actually assassinated one of the Renegades. It's not the actual Renegade leader who's a little bit stronger. All of the Renegade units are disguised as the same person, but only one of them is the real strong leader. But it still means they can do less, the Renegade. And exhausted and poisoned means they're actually exhausted through the next turn as well. So this is incredible for us if the Renegade does choose to go after us. That's a 5 renown unit off the table, which is absolutely enormous. And they're choosing to come in and help us on this last unit as well. They have really gone all in with us here. They also gave us a bunch more dashes for free when we were nearly running out. They have been so immensely helpful to us. It's hard to state how much. It makes me feel really bad that we haven't really paid them very much at all yet. They're doing all of this with the promise that we, not even the promise, just aiming to get enough goodwill with us that we will work with them, that we will give them a ton of Electrum on the final day. We will have a ton of Electrum on the final day. We'll be able to overwork Jester Crest, and the plan is to take Steel next turn, so this will be buffed up to 5.0, and then I can overwork that, which because of the additional collection, like this has all the upgrades, right? That will give us 12 Electrum on the final turn, so we'll have a ton. But we need to pay other wildcards as well, and that's the question, how much do we reserve for the Spymaster who's helping us no matter what, when there are other really important wildcards who we need to pay to help us? I really want to help the Spymaster win. They've been incredibly helpful, but I don't know whether we can afford to do it. That's going to be the big question here. Well, I've got to go back to negotiating because forums just came off recess again. But now I think the rest of this phase is going to be an endless talk between ourselves and the Saurians about how far away these airships should be from one another. Because the Saurians keep inching forwards and then moving back again when we call them out on it. So I think they are very much intending to go for Cobalt, and they're hoping to keep us like this far back long enough for us to not be able to reach Iridias in the same amount of time. Okay, so this is shaping up to be a really interesting combat stage. We had that standoff around Iridias and Cobalt with the 2 airships, right, going back and forward, just sort of hanging around. We asked Saurians to go south with it. They started going south and then said that Rosemore had basically given them an ultimatum that they needed to go north again or else they would not, you know, they would break the alliance and invade them. So they started coming our way again. We were going, no, you cannot come this way, you have to go that way. But they had to go to this city anyway in order to pick up the Skyrite that they'd hired. I don't know why they hired the Skyrite. Their ship isn't damaged, but I guess it's just in case it gets damaged in the future, right? And also to deny it to other people like us. We could have found good use in that. But yeah, there was this back and forth. They went to here, it was uncomfortably close, so we were sat quite close to Cobalt, just ready to go and hit Iridias if they came forward. I again proposed the plan of maybe we should just let them shoot our ship, or propose that they shoot our ship, and then they don't have the possibility of shooting our city. And that's more important to us, right? Because if they shoot the city, they probably manage to take it. Whereas if they shoot the ship, it's just an airship hardpoint. It's repairable. and we don't lose all the resources from Cobalt going into the next turn. I went to do that, and I was saying, hey, I can move the airship in range. I pitched it to Saurian. Saurian seemed fine with it this time around. I don't know why they didn't earlier. But I moved it close. I was moving it closer to them, and they started moving forward to come and shoot me. I was like, wait, no, you can stay where you are. Like, you're coming into range of Cobalt. I don't want you to be in range of Cobalt. And they just kind of ignored that and moved forward. And the forums were in recess, so we didn't really have any options at that point to talk to one another. We kind of nearly run out of dashes at this point. So eventually I was like, how do I get them to stop coming towards Cobalt? Well, I guess I just call off this plan, right? Because they're only coming forward because I've given them permission to shoot the airship. So I said, you know what? Team isn't good with my plan. I'm gonna move backwards towards Leaf Burn. And you can see that's the most recent message here. They never responded to it. And they kept sort of edging forwards, which worried me a lot. But at that point, we'd committed. We've already moved far enough away that we couldn't shoot Iridia, so we just moved to within range of Leaf Burn over here. And we're hoping that they don't go shoot Cobalt. Now, continuously between then and now, they've been slowly edging this forward, saying they need to get within range of Kingsland. You will note they are solidly within range of Kingsland now. Every time they go a little closer, they turn themselves a little bit north so that they get in range of Cobalt as well. And I think they think we haven't noticed. We obviously noticed. We keep telling them, hey, could you please go a direct route to Kingsland, right? So you're not threatening our city. And then they'll change it to go south a bit, and then suddenly they'll they'll change their path to be slightly more north again. So I have a feeling they're going to invade us here. There is something we can do about it, if they do. Sadly, the Spymaster didn't get a Tranquilize off on these guys. They got paid to not do that. And they came and asked us first, hey, is it okay if I get paid to not Tranquilize here? And we went, yes, absolutely, sure, that's fine by us. Because we do want the Spymaster to be being paid. Like, it feels really bad that I don't think they're going to get anywhere near as much Electrum as they think they're going to get out of us. But Spymaster didn't tranquilize anything here, so they've got the units ready to move on us. These units are quite high renown compared to ours, which means they have more support. It's 1 support per renown of the unit that's leading you in. You can see our highest renown unit is the 3 on the Firebrand, which is worse than the unit that it's going up against. They've also got their airship, they're moving within range, that will give support here as well. Ours does too, but if they've hired the Hurricane and allied with the Aeronaut, that will give them support as well, so they'll outdo us slightly. We could defend it by moving all these units from Theatre into Cobalt as well, and potentially the units from Xeric. Xeric would probably give up Xeric to the Scalefall, but that will probably happen anyway if they attack like that, because their guy is slightly higher renown again than ours is. But yeah, the main problem with it is just it's taking most of our turn to do that, just to defend Cobalt. And if you're looking at the Cobalt, like, resources, 3 brass is not bad. We all like that much brass, especially in a day leading up to the final day where you're going to want to recruit a lot of dead soldiers back, and you use brass to pay for that, right? But ultimately, it's not, like, crucial. There's not a massive amount of resources in here, and if we can retake it on the final turn, we can get, like, Steel and Electrum. We haven't paid any money to upgrade stuff. We'll probably buy the infrastructure upgrade, if we keep the city this turn, because there's nothing else we can really do. We don't want to pay Steel for anything. Renovating just makes it worse. Maybe we should renovate it into something that's less valuable for them to take, but hey... I don't like that, just in case they don't go for it. So it's not actually all that important. It's probably not worth focus firing everything into there, especially considering this one down here, you can see has 3 steel in it, which is much more important. And so we really want the Marshal to lead this force into Leaf Burn, just to make 100% sure we keep that. I think we probably do, because the Arcforge asked for an alliance with us, so that our airship would support them in Kingsland. They're attempting to attack Kingsland. and so they won't actually be able to attack us here. If they march in, it will just, like, do nothing because they're allied with us. But you never know, they might disband that alliance last minute, right? So I would really like the theatre people to be moving that direction to defend it. We've arranged some skirmishes with the Saurians, which is just when you set your army to just, like, skirmish with their army instead of trying to support the city. That will increase our renown without actually threatening their cities, and hopefully they've done the same thing, although I would not be at all surprised, especially given what they've been doing with their airship, if they go for secure instead and try and invade these territories. The most interesting part of this combat, though, is something we're not really involved in, which is Kingsland. And you'll note that we tried to go for Kingsland last time, right? We were 1 unit short, well, less than 1 unit short, 1, like, strength short on the whole thing. It would have been 15 versus 16, so we abandoned the plan. Now, this turn, the Imperials have 0 shot at keeping Kingsland. They know that themselves, right? They've stacked all their military officers down south. They've basically consolidated down here and gone, you know what, Kingsland, we'll take what we can get out of it this turn, but we know we're not keeping it. And everyone is looking at it like a vulture right now. You can see that the Rosemore have their ship positioned over it. The Saurians have positioned their ship over it. Hurricane is there to try and support anyone else. Arcforge wants to go for it, right? They hired our support to attack it. I would not be surprised if there are 3 opposing armies that go in for this. I'm super tempted to send our Cobalt army in as well, but I know that we're not going to get it. We've got no shot compared to, like, 10 coming in from here. I don't know what the... Yeah, it's with the Brigadier, so he's got 4 renown. That's quite, because he gets +1. Essentially 4 renown, because he gets +1 support per bastion, and there's still 3 bastions down here, right? So I don't think we'd stand a chance against the number of units that are going to be invading there, but it is going to be very funny to see just how many armies clash in the center. I also can imagine that Highwayman is making absolute bank off of this. You'll note we have the alliance with the Highwayman from earlier that we got so that we could get that aristocrat to leaf burn instantly. Everyone else is going to have allied the Highwayman as well, because they want this Highwayman route to add support. Remember, if you attack, I say remember, I don't know if I've said it in this, if you attack over a Highwayman route and you're not allied to the Highwayman, your support actually gets halved. Well, I think it's -1 support, actually, so your strength gets... you get -1 support, I believe. It might actually be half strength to your entire army. I'd need to check that, but I think it's -1 support to your army, and that's a pretty huge difference for these units that will be attacking. So I'll bet everyone has paid the Highwayman. Okay, so there's going to be a giant battle over Kingsland. I'm very interested to see how it goes, especially considering I think Rose and Saurians are supposed to be, like, semi-allied, so I don't really understand why they're both going for Kingsland. But maybe they're not entirely allied, I don't know. Or maybe it's just that Saurians are going for Kingsland or something. Or maybe it's that Rose are going for Kingsland and we're about to get murdered by Saurians. I will give an update after it's happened. Yeah, it will be interesting to see. Okay, absolutely incredible goings on here in Days Without Strife land. You'll see we got backstabbed here. They are attacking Cobalt. They created a Highwayman route between here and Cobalt. We have redirected, or we are supposed to be redirecting this to Cobalt to try and defend. I don't think we'll have enough units there to keep it, but hey, it's worth a shot, right? But the most incredible thing that's happened here is Imperials know they can't hold Kingsland this turn. I mentioned that before. They sent us a last-minute desperation offer of an alliance for Kingsland. I don't know why they want an alliance with us. Maybe it's... like, I don't think they gain anything from that, because if they give away Kingsland, we're not actually helping them on anything. But if they're giving it to us, we'll accept it, right? It's like, well, yeah, sure. But it raised some really interesting ideas in my head, because if you attack a city of a power that you're allied with, then you don't gain that city even if you win. You leave it for the power that you're allied with. So what we're doing is we're leaving this offer until the last minute. We're going to accept it right at the end. I sent an alliance offer to the Rosemore estate saying, hey, do you want an alliance? And they'll go, yeah, of course, because they get an extra support from our airship if they do that, right? That's great for them. Arcforge, of course, already offered us an alliance so that they could go in for Kingsland. And now what's going to happen, or at least what I hope is going to happen, is last second we get Kingsland off the Young Empire. And then these people all invade Kingsland at the same time and secure it for us. Because we're already there, we send no armies into it, but every army that attacks it is allied to us. So they all just secure it for us. Now, we have to be careful with timing here, because if these people see what we're doing, they will disband the alliances with us instantaneously. But we're going to try and do this last minute and see if we can secure Kingsland for ourselves. It would definitely make up for the Cobalt problem here. Oh my god, it's so stupid. Well, I'm just a touch disappointed. We did grab Kingsland with like 20 seconds left to go in the phase. I was watching the alliances to see, is anyone going to disband this alliance? Because we had alliances with everyone except the Saurians, right? We were going to win this no matter what, because the Saurians were clearly going to Cobalt. They built this route between Goldshire and Cobalt. And yet... And yet, of everyone, like, the Roses didn't bother going to Kingsland. They went down to Heart Rock, sadly. The Arcforge did go to Kingsland, but the Roses attacked Goldshire. Look, that's kind of incredible. I don't know whether that was a backstab or just, like, agreed trade there, but the Saurians marched into Kingsland instead of the Rosemore. And that meant that the one faction that we didn't align with had all the strength on that. You can see Saurian army of 10 times 5. That's 50. There was no chance that we would get in there. And the Renegade came in and they were clearly allied with the Saurians because they deduct 65 strength. That's a frankly incredible amount of strength from everyone they're not allied with, but they didn't deduct it from the Saurians. So they must have been allied with the Saurians in that case. Thankfully, Renegade kept their word. We kept everything on this front. We didn't lose Cobalt. The Saurians came in from here, but we had a last-second miracle happen with the Imperials. They sent their aristocrat via Express, which is a type of ticket that you can get from an upgraded Kingsland, to Fort Qantas and tranquilized the Marshal. And the Marshal was the unit that was threatening Leafburn and Sanctuary, right? It stopped them from being able to come in and attack us. So we had this beautiful moment of, we don't need to defend Leafburn anymore. We don't need to defend Unsank anymore. There were no enemy units in Kingsland that had been shot out. We got Cobalt shot out, unfortunately, as well. But it meant that we could redirect our theatre units to Cobalt. And combined with the Zarek unit, even without the army that was there originally, the one that got shot out, we still had plus 20, so 40 total strength against their 30. We just about managed to beat them there and hold that for ourselves. Bloody close thing. They just walk into Zarek with no issue, of course. And really sad thing here is our Firebrand, because the army in Cobalt was gone, did not gain any renown on that turn, so that was a painful one. But the rest of our units did. You can see Commander's gone up, Marshal's gone up, right? And over here, the Ascendant, whenever this agent's army captures a city, gain 1 renown. So even though he didn't fight, in order to gain that, he still went up in a renown point. And over here, we already had Leafburn, we didn't send anything there, so no problem. So we're not in the most incredible position. You can see we've lost Zarek, we didn't gain Kingsland, we didn't gain all that much, but we're in an alright position, and if this attack on Goldshire really was a stab in the back here, we're in a pretty okay place. Saurian will hopefully be turning around and attacking Rosemore on the next turn, and I really hope that's the case. We'll see what comes of it. We also need to be really careful about Jester Crest, because we really need to defend that. That's where all our resources are, and now there's an enemy unit right next to it. That could be a problem. Anyway, so I will leave today's updates there. We'll see how things are going in the morrow. Alright, start of day 4. Things have already been super interesting here. The most interesting thing, sadly, I missed it on the recording because there was too much going on to start recording that early, was that the Rosemore left Rose Ward with no units in, so that they could put their units elsewhere, right? Maybe also so that they could have the Renegade spawn there. I don't know what their thinking exactly was. But that meant the Rose Ward was neutral, and Renegade had pitched the same plan to us over Jester, saying, hey, you should leave Jester neutral, and then I'll spawn in there, I'll trade it back to you because I've got a base there, and a wildcard can trade a neutral city to a faction if they have a base on it, right? And then I'll be able to spawn units there and help defend you against Xeric. And we initially were going to accept that. They wanted 2.5 Electrum as part of that deal, which I think would have been more than worth it. But then we realized, hang on, the Saurians have Kingsland, and they can work Kingsland to get express tickets. And express tickets allow you to teleport your units anywhere on the map without them going on cooldown. So what they can do is just use their aristocrat, who is here, express their aristocrat to a very important city, neutral city like Jestercrest, right, and instantly take control of it before the wildcard has a chance to trade it to you. And so we eventually backed out of that once we saw that possibility. We were like, I'm really sorry, can't do that. But Rosemore made the same mistake. They made the same deal. They left it empty. And I think they trusted the merchant to just sell it back to them, but then merchants started a bidding war between various factions, right? Going, hey, I'll sell it to the highest bidder here. And Rose had their Aristo next door, but if Merchant had gotten a big enough offer before that checkpoint, they could have sold it to anyone. There's potentially a lot of resources in Roseward. It's a foundry. It's been Rosemore controlled since the very beginning of the game, right? They've definitely been building stuff up in it in the same way that we've been building stuff up in Jestercrest. So if someone else grabs that, overworks it so that they can't use it on the final turn, that's insanely bad for the Rosemore. So the bidding war went super high. The merchant was asking for 7.5 Electrum for it. The Saurians and the Imperials were trying to work together to gather that much, but I don't think they managed to. And the Rosemore, in the end of the day, offered 7. You can see Rose have 5 foundries here. They're going full 100% eco build here. They're trying everything they can to get as many resources as they possibly can going into those last turns, right? And I think they're probably going to overwork Goldshore because they know they're going to lose that one here. So the merchant didn't end up selling it to the Saurians or to the Imperials. The Rosemore end up moving their Aristo back and claiming it. We did put in an offer too. The merchant said if we freed his Ironmonger, who we've got under arrest in the theatre, he would be willing to sell us Rosemore for 1.5, but we have to free the Ironmonger first. I was like, we are not doing that under any circumstances. If you're being offered 7 Electrum by another faction, then if we free the Ironmonger, he is just going to take that 7 Electrum and run with it, and we can't do anything about it because we can't rearrest that Ironmonger unless he uses his ability in the same city as the Marshal, and I doubt he would fall for that again. So, yeah, so we put in an offer and basically said, hey, we will free your Ironmonger so you can generate steel and give you half of whatever resources are in Rose Ward if you give it to us. But you have to give us the city first. We cannot be the ones freeing this guy first. And he never responded to that. You can see my offer here to him. And yeah, I think he just realized like 7 Electrum is really hard to beat, right? And I think he might have just been trying to scam us anyway. It would not surprise me at all. Anyway, so that's the situation right now. We're racing an Aristocrat towards Scalefall to see if we can grab that. These guys are also racing their Aristocrat there, so it looks like neither of us will actually be able to take it. We'll both arrive at the same time, so we're going to block each other, right? The main thing here, we asked them to keep Xeric clear and to neutralize it if they wanted to work with us. just so that there would be no army here, right? And you can see they didn't do that. They put their army here anyway. And I don't know what to do about that, because Saurians are incredibly important for stopping the Rosemore from just running away with this game. But that Xeric is so much pressure on Cobalt and also on Jestercrest, which is our entire game plan. It doesn't look like a lot of resources here, but combined with those upgrades, right, it's huge. That's going to be 12 Electrum on the final turn with the overwork. We really, really need to keep that. So I don't love them having Xeric. I think we're going to be focusing everything on retaking that on this next turn. And hopefully we can figure out a way to do that without annoying them too much or weakening them against these guys. We gotta talk to the Arcforge as well, try and work something out with them, because they are not happy that we took these two. Very understandably, I think, given their whole game plan was to have these two stay neutral, so we will need to chat with them and see how things are going. Alright, that's my Start of Day 4 update. I'll see you next time. Okay, just after third train on day 4 now. There hasn't been that much more going on, but what did go on was quite important. I mentioned in the earlier one that we needed to have no army in Xeric. They put an army there anyway. They had that army of 5 in Xeric that we really didn't want there, so we sent them a message saying, hey, would you be willing to let us shoot it in return for us not aristocrat blocking you in Scalefall? Because we both had aristocrats headed for Scalefall, they both arrived there at the same time, so they were blocking each other, and we managed to go to the Brotherhood and say, hey, we think no one's going to pay for your barrister, how about you just throw him at us for 0.2 Electrum, right? And Brotherhood just accepted that offer. So we got the barrister, who is a character who can only really do... well, he can't really do very much. He claims neutral cities even if there's an aristocrat in them, which can be incredibly useful, but the Saurians had an envoy standing here who had a tranquilizer dart. And the tranquilizer was a bit of a problem, right? If we moved our barrister there, they'd get a chance to tranquilize him, and it would be an APM battle as to whether we actually claim the city first. So I wanted a better resolution than that. We didn't really need Scalefall, after all. It's just a hub, it gives credits or luxuries. And we really do want Xeric, and we wanted no army Xeric. So, and we did want that without the Saurians being angry at us. So what we ended up doing was saying, hey, you just let us shoot Xeric and take that army out, and we won't aristo block you here, and we won't use the barrister here. You just get it for free. And they waited for a very, very long time, and then they sent a message saying, sure, we'll take that offer. So we sent our airship up north, shot Xeric, and then sent it back down south again. And we've been pathing this airship very, very carefully to make sure that the Quartermaster cannot get off it. Now, if we were less nice... I say if we were less nice, I think we also don't really want the aeronaut retaliating against us, right? That could have been a reason that we wouldn't need to pay the aeronaut at all, right? Because we've got his quartermaster trapped aboard our ship. Why would we pay for something we've already got here? And that's reasonable, but we don't want to create that much bad feeling with a wild card. So I did actually pay the aeronaut for the quartermaster. The reason we're dodging cities at the moment is just to avoid him being able to hop off and then sell it to someone else and screw us over. I don't know whether he would, but I don't want to risk it. And we don't have anything we urgently need to do with this airship, so we may as well be a little bit careful about it, right? I actually ended up purchasing that for a full 1 Electrum, which he was offering it to us for 0.9. I think it's a good deal to stop another faction getting a trade good as well. But we were also in discussions with him about hiring his Skyrite, the thing that repairs the ship, for 0.5 Electrum. I think it probably wasn't worth it, but I took it a bit more seriously than I should have, and so he positioned it in a place that we could go pick it up from. And at that point, it's like, do we really go, we're not hiring it anymore, because he'll be a bit annoyed that he took the time to move it there, right? So eventually we did go, no, we're not going to hire it. It's a bit too expensive. But we'll throw in 0.1 extra Electrum to say sorry for wasting your time. And he managed to sell it to someone else anyway, so it seems to have been fine. Okay. So there's not that much else that's happened on our side. We're being very passive because we really want to prop up the Saurians against the Rose. The Rose are very clearly the favorites for this game, right? They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 foundries now and 2 hubs. That's kind of an absurd amount of resources going into the final turn here. And of course, they've been able to overwork one of those as well. Is just, frankly, completely insane. So we really need them to get hit on the final turn, and if we hit lizards hard here, I think the lizards will just be like, well, why should we deal with Rose then? This seems pointless now. So yeah, we're treading a very thin line there and trying to keep them happy. We had a long discussion with one of their players in theatre, just over here, because they have a unit there, right, the capitalist, recently, about working together, and I was trying to convince them to just hand Xeric over to us with a trade, but they haven't accepted that, right? They were talking about how maybe if we throw in an alliance, that's worth it to them, because then they get the support over Kingsland from our airship, and I think that would be good for them, but as mentioned, they haven't responded. They were also a little bit worried about whether we'd put a unit in Cobalt. I really want to, because I want to gain renown on the unit for fighting, but I don't necessarily want to attack anything, like attack anything with it, right? I don't want to scare them with it. If I do want to attack anything, it would just be into Goldshore to skirmish, maybe to decrease the Rose presence there, if we're allied with the Saurians. But they were fairly insistent. They weren't that insistent, but they certainly felt like they wanted us not to have a military unit there. So I was saying, hey, look, if you give us Xeric, I'd be prepared to make that deal. And I say it's been a team effort between me and the rest of the team as well, but we've all sort of been in and out at different times of the day. So I'm talking about what I specifically did during the day here. Big shout out to QueenInYellow and Katherine for holding the fort while I've not been here as well, doing a ton of the negotiations even when I am here as well, and figuring out military stuff. So, what are we worried about at the moment? Well, we're worried about Renegade spawning in Xeric. If Renegade does spawn in Xeric, it's going to be very difficult for us to take that. Renegade without an alliance with the Renegade, and we've only got the 1.5 Electrum now. We're trying to figure out how best to use that. Renegade might want to price their alliance higher than that. We'll see. Other things we're a little bit worried about, the Arcforge down here have quite a lot of units on this front. They are probably going to run some of them into Leafburn or Unsank, so we would really like to defend that. There is also the possibility of lizards attacking us, but I don't think they will. So I think we're mostly focusing on trying to defend this area, right? So we'll see what comes of that. We did overwork Unsanctuary this turn, so that one doesn't matter as much as Leafburn does. Leafburn will still have resources next turn that we can collect. But Unsanctuary is still worth quite a lot of renown. You'll see it's a 6 renown city, so we really want to keep hold of that if we can. And I'm kind of tempted to try and invade them out of it. I don't know whether we'd be successful here, is the question there, but hey, worth a shot. Oh yeah, the one other thing here, this airship, after the last recess, this airship started moving forward towards here. The Saurian airship had just been hanging around here. I think it was debating whether to shoot at Goldshore or hold its shot so that it could shoot at Cobalt if it looks like we're going to attack them. I sent them like a panic message once I saw that approaching, because you know how close it's gotten to being within range of it. It kind of needs the center of that airship to be within the circle, so it's just out of range at the moment. But it looks like the Kingfisher is going to go and shoot out the ground cannons of that ship. So I sent them a bit of a panic message saying, it's about to shoot the cannon, this is your last chance to shoot gold, if you are going to shoot it. And they actually responded to that and shot that gold short. So we're going to talk to them about that once the recess comes off cooldown here, and we'll be able to talk in the forums again and see, hopefully they're feeling fine about us working together on Goldshore and stuff. I'd be interested to see what happens with it. One last thing, so we've been working with Spymaster and they're positioning to take out the Rosemore Planner, right, on the next turn. Hopefully they'll be able to do that and reduce that Electrum. We're going to have that really difficult choice on the next turn because we get that massive influx of Electrum, right, the plus 12, and we could use that to advance our own position, or we could hold on to that to reward the Spymaster who has been working with us all game and just send it to her as like a reward. And it would feel really bad if we weren't able to reward her for what she's done there, but at the same time, that 12 Electrum could be what makes the difference between us winning and losing on that last turn. So we're gonna have to figure out what to do there. I guess that's a problem for tomorrow's me. I'll talk to you then. Okay, it is the start of day 5. I might need to bring up a screenshot of end of day 4 here because there was a lot that happened, and it's difficult to describe. A lot of yesterday was my teammates holding the fort, right? I wasn't around at the time to do this. I was around a bit to do some of the negotiations and stuff, but I wasn't around to do a recording, so I've got to do it this morning instead. You can see that we're actually in a pretty good spot now, and that's because of the events that happened yesterday. You'll note we own Zarek, so we did send Saurians that trade offer of an alliance for Zarek. They eventually did accept it. And that was huge because Zarek was only connected to Scalefall as an enemy place, and Scalefall had no units in it, so there was no way they could possibly take it. However, Highwayman had units on Zarek and on Iridias, which opens up the possibility of them creating a tunnel between the two and attacking it from Iridias. And that's exactly what happened partway through the recess, with about 14 minutes to go towards the final checkpoint, so the final train, not the actual combat stage. The Highwayman created this tunnel between Iridias and Zarek, and the Saurians had hired a bunch of military Brotherhood agents who are extremely strong. They'd hired the Barbarian and they'd hired the Brigadier. Both of those units create a lot of potential strength and would pretty easily be able to overwhelm Zarek if they had gone up to Iridias. Their commander had come to me earlier and asked, and had said, hey, we'll give you Zarek in return for the alliance as long as I don't see your commander in Cobalt, because I don't want your commander to come into Iridias and stop us from taking Goldshore. And we had said yes to that. I was a little uneasy about it because of those two Brotherhood units standing in Goldshore, right? That could go up to Iridias and attack through a tunnel if the tunnel was created. But I had entered orders accordingly and not sent the commander to Cobalt. And we were going up towards that final checkpoint, so I was making the decision of where do we send those military units, right? But then, of course, the Highwaymen made this tunnel route, and you'll see we sent that panic message, Highwayman route, what's up with that? Question mark. And I switched which one was going to Cobalt. I put the commander going to Cobalt, and I put the Firebrand, I think it was, going to Leafburn, and we originally had them going the other way around. And that meant that with the commander going to Cobalt, we would be able to attack Iridias with a first strike. That's what the commander does before anyone else attacks. The Spymaster had taken out the Saurian commander way earlier in the phase with the Tranquilizer, which was huge. It meant that we didn't have to worry about a first strike coming in, right? And our commander would always cancel any orders that from the place that he attacks. So if they were planning to attack Zarek, we could put the commander in Cobalt, we attack them in Iridias, they're forced to defend instead because it's a first strike attack. And that cancels the orders of the units that you go in, that you march into. Now, after we sent this telegram, they didn't reply. Presumably they didn't have any dashes left. And then we eventually get up to the checkpoint and the trains go and we see, oh, they've only put their marshal in Iridias. They've put no one else. They sent all the rest of their military to Peerless Peak to presumably confront the Rosemore, right? And so from that point, I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe they were telling us the truth. Maybe they were never going to invade Zarek. Maybe it was just the Highwaymen doing stuff to try and get us to pay him, right? Because he did send a message that phase saying, you have 7 minutes if you want to create a like rigged route between Aridius and Cobalt to allow you to invade it. And we turned them down on that, right? We didn't have the Electrum. Well, we did have the Electrum, but we didn't want to spend it on that at the time. But then we had this big forum in Theatre where the Highwaymen and the Saurians were, and Saurians came in and instantly said, look, we didn't pay for that tunnel. It wasn't ours, right? That's just the Highwayman is lying to you and trying to make you paranoid. And I was inclined to believe that because they sent the Marshal up to Aridius, right? They wouldn't do that if they were planning to attack us. They would send their actual good units up. But then they asked for privacy in the forum, they gave the full pass at the side of their story, then we let the Highwayman back into the forum, we kicked the Saurians out, Highwayman gave his side of the story on his request, right, that we kicked the Saurians out and they were okay with that. And Highwayman said, hey, they paid me a bunch to make this tunnel, but they paid me a bunch to make it at the very end of the phase. They didn't pay me as much as I was asking for. They kept trying to get a discount, which is why I decided to screw with them a little bit and make it like 12 minutes earlier than I should have actually made it. And that gives you a bit of a heads up, right? And his opinion was that they had panicked upon seeing him do that earlier and us send that telegram to them. And so they changed their orders to make it look like they were never planning to attack us. And actually hearing that side of the story, I think that's more likely, because that's exactly what the Saurian commander has been trying to do to us every single round of this game. He has been an absolute nightmare to work with. It's important to note that it was the speaker and the planner from the Saurians who were coming in to explain this and, like, tell us we were never planning to attack you kind of thing, but their commander is always a sneaky bastard, so we should really keep that in mind here. So I'm inclined to believe the Highwayman's story. I don't know that it's 100% correct. It's pretty clear that the Highwayman made that tunnel at the point that he did to try and get Electrum out of us for the toll, right? To try and cause strife between the two of us. But I think there's elements of truth to his story. I think he didn't set it up early to, like, help us in any way. He set it up early so that we would pay him. But I do think that the Saurians paid him, and I think that him setting it up actually saved us a little bit because it made the Saurians put their Marshal there instead of the other units, and it gave us time to change our commander to go to Cobalt instead. So as it was, we had that alliance with the Saurians in return for them trading us Xeric, right? We had an alliance with the Arcforge. Both of them were kind of being a bit nervous and thinking that we might break that alliance. We were never planning to break either of those alliances, which is the interesting thing. I was like, how are we even going to gain renown on our military leaders here? Because we can't fight anyone, right? Everyone next to us is our ally. So I actually went to the Renegade and said, hey, I'll throw you some money if you just spawn in Xeric and we can fight you there. Because that gives us someone to attack with some of our units, right? And Renegade said they would accept that if no one else hired them, but someone else did hire them to be in Kingsland, so we attacked them there instead and got some renown. You can see the Firebrand is now up to 5 renown thanks to that, which is nice. We also attacked Goldshore, which was Rose at the time. The Saurians had shot it out, so there weren't any units left there. But the Rose did march back in at combat stage and try and keep it. And we came in with a skirmish to decrease the Rose forces there. And because we're allied to the Saurians, we didn't decrease their forces there at all. So the Saurians easily took it. Saurians also tried to take Fort Matrice. It did not work. They were like a couple of points short. It was very, very close. And Arcforge marched into Kingsland. We marched into Kingsland to fight the Renegade there, but because we're allied to the Arcforge, our attack didn't impact the Arcforge attack, so Arcforge ended up taking that. Now, you will see the Arcforge have rather a lot of units on our border specifically. They have pumped everything onto us, which is a bit of an issue. We don't want to lose stuff over here, but we're very clearly in the lead now. we're on 61 renown. That's mainly because we have this monument here and this former monument here. And a lot of other people don't control monuments, or control very little monuments, right? You can see that there's one. In fact, I think Imperials actually have two of the original monuments here. Jarlsend and Digsite, but Jarlsend got converted into a foundry super early, so it doesn't have the renown, right? So the renown is on this place and this place, mostly. So no one else has quite as good of a position as we do right now, but that does mean that everyone is going to gang up against us, right? So we're going to be very much under siege for this final turn. It's not really the position you want to be in. You would definitely prefer to be like second, so that everyone throws everything at the guy in first, and you can come in and sweep in and win. But we do have a plan for winning. We can hire the Wanderer to kill some of these units, for one. We could hire the Wanderer to maybe kill Fort Future Spire. The fortification only stops city shots, right? It doesn't stop the Wanderer's nuke ability. So he has 3 nukes he can do, which each remove 13 units from a province. That's huge. We have a lot of Electrum coming in. The Spymaster has taken out some of the enemy planners, I think. I believe the Rose planner was shot somewhere, but I don't know where they've gone now. Yeah, there we go. So the Rose planner is exhausted, so they can't collect double on this turn, which is big. It means they can't fund as much buying wildcards. So we still have our Jester Crest plan. We have the possibility of using the planner to double the Jester Crest collection, making it 10, and then plus another 2 from the city upgrade on Harvester. So we're going to get 12 Electrum in. That's quite a lot. We do need to consider that the Spymaster has been helping us all game and wants a big influx of Electrum at the end, and we kind of should be keeping some to pay her for what she's been doing. But this is just it, right? If we're going to lose the game if we don't use that Electrum on other things, then we kind of have to use that Electrum on other things. It's why you can't really... Why working for Goodwill, it's a good strategy, but it doesn't work if that's the only thing you do. So we're going to have to think about that. I would feel really bad if we have to screw over the Spymaster like that. So I'm going to try and do, and I know the rest of my team feels that way too. So we're going to try and do everything we can to make sure that the Spymaster doesn't, to make sure that we don't spend too much Electrum on this turn. But if we need to, it's there. Other things we've spent Electrum on here, we've got the Highwayman to build a route between Xeric and the Theatre. We've got an alliance with the Highwayman now. So mainly so that we don't have to pay all his tolls when he sets up 1 million toll routes, because he is absolutely going to do that again. The extra route between Theatre and Xeric will give us a way to defend it, even if they take out the ones that can currently defend it, right? And we've bought some stuff off the Brotherhood for very, very cheap. You can see we bought Builder and Barrister. I basically sent a message in the Hurricane, which I'm surprised no one else countered, saying, hey, if you don't get any offers for your Barrister and your Builder, I tried to throw in Builder like, oh, this is just a silly thing as well, and put the focus on the Barrister, because everyone knows Barrister is pretty useless on the final turn, right? You can only claim neutrals. That's the only neutral. It's going to be grabbed by the Aristocrat immediately. So I said, we'll hire the Barrister and the Builder for we'll throw in a small offer in case you don't get any other offers for it. Would you accept it? And he just said yes in the Hurricane. And so I sent the offer of 0.3 for these two. And I don't think anyone realizes just how incredible the Builder is. Because the Builder can give a monument its 3rd upgrade, right? We've already got it on this monument, so we don't need it here. All armies mustered in the city get +1 support. Absolutely incredible for the final turn. We could renovate Unsanctuary into a monument city, and then give that its extra upgrade if we need to. But the thing we're actually probably going to use it on is Zeisser to get that 3rd upgrade for the hub. Whenever resources are collected from the city, gain 2 bonus luxuries, just so that we can get the extra luxuries. And the reason for that is the final bids. And there is one in particular that we're really eyeing up, and it's this one, the Scoundrel, worth 1 renown for each luxury spent to bid on them. Oh my god, if we can get a lot of luxuries, that is fantastic. I think that unit is game winning to whoever gets it at this point. So we need to get as many luxuries as humanly possible. The slight issue with that, we're gonna have to collect credits from the theatre. We can't go for extra luxuries just because we don't have enough capital to collect all of the things that we need to collect, right? We need to collect Jester, we don't need to collect Cobalt, but it would be useful to collect Cobalt. We need to collect Zycer as well, to get the luxuries. So we're sadly gonna have to throw two luxuries away, in that sense. But we're going to be able to collect luxuries on Zycer, and we're going to be able to double that with the Builder, which is incredible. Like, 0.3 for that ability is absurd. I think other people should have paid to stop that from happening, and no one really bothered. Everyone was too busy bidding on the agents that look incredibly good on the last turn, right? Baron, Barbarian, Brigadier, the military ones, and the one who just straight up gives you 3 trade goods. So yeah, a lot of our game plan basically here comes down to, can we get the Scoundrel? Hopefully we can. We thankfully lost our bids on basically the last 2 turns, so we've got a ton of luxuries stacked up now. You don't pay the bid if you don't get the thing that you bid on, right? So we got our thing for 1 luxury last turn, I think, which was really nice. And hopefully other people won't have enough luxuries to compete on that. We'll see. The other things are really holding on Sanctuary and holding Xeric, and that's kind of it. That's what we need to do. Xeric in particular, because that's worth 8 renown. We could potentially get a ton of renown by taking Kingsland, if we just want to abandon these places and march everything this way, right? But realistically, I don't think we're going to get Kingsland. I think there's going to be so much on Kingsland that there just won't be any possibility to do it. And you can see that Rose is instigating stuff against us here. They're sending their airship to come and shoot Cobalt and stuff, or potentially to shoot Xeric. I'm not 100% sure. They're trying to get the Saurians on side as much as possible. And it might actually work because they look kind of weak. I think they're not weak at all. They're only, 12 renown behind us, and they have tons of resources still. Like, insane amounts of resources. The fact that their planner got shot is the only thing that's keeping us competitive on the resource count on that front. But they don't look threatening, and that's the problem. We're gonna have to hope that, like, Imperials can do something against them and keep them down a little bit. Alright, so checkpoint in 12 minutes. I'm gonna finish up this recording here. We'll see how things go. Okay, we just avoided absolute disaster here. I didn't realize it at first, but you'll note here on day 5, right before the checkpoint, about 30 seconds before the checkpoint, the Rosemore Envoy has taken the Express to Cobalt. Now, an Envoy is a unit that can jump across the map. You will see here, priority transit, it can periodically travel via Express Rail for free. Cooldown 3 checkpoints. Now, it gets exhausted when it does that. So theoretically, it's an amazing agent for spy tech to be on, because you can jump at someone and then use it. But you can't exactly do that, because you get exhausted for 3 turns, so you can only use the spy tech after 3 turns. It's very good with scanners, like this scanner, for example, allows you to see and block enemy spy tech at this location, because I believe that's a passive and still works when it's exhausted. But this unit jumping to Cobalt wouldn't actually be able to tranquilize us if it's got a tranquilize on it, because it's currently exhausted. However, so I was looking at, I saw this with 30 seconds to go, and I was like, I wonder why it's jumped to Cobalt? That's interesting. I had to make a split-second decision. We had the Commander in Goldshore, we had the Firebrand in Kingsland. Our 2 strongest units, they were both going to Cobalt to then go through to the theatre, right? I saw the Envoy jump into Cobalt, and I was like, what is that going to do there? I think most likely it's got a scanner, it will be defending something with a Tranquilize, and then that Tranquilizer is going to shoot whoever goes there. So I very, very quickly redirected my commander to go down to Kingsland, and the Firebrand to go into Leafburn. And this was without consulting with my team. We literally didn't have time to, but I think they would have agreed with that decision. They were also online at the time, right? But I think I was the only one actually looking with 30 seconds to go. So I changed those, and you can see the celebrity came up here. So I assumed the plan was that these two factions are allied. The envoy scanner is protecting the celebrity from anything, and the celebrity is going to tranquilize the commander. Because it's a fair bet to say that the commander is going to come back to Cobalt rather than going through Kingsland. Kingsland seems like a really bad place to go, right? There's going to be a bunch of people there. But then we had a conversation with the Wanderer in the theatre, and the Wanderer is saying, hey, do you want to hire my blade? I've had an offer for it already. 8 Electrum from the Roses. Like, what? 8 Electrum? Okay, well, we knew they were far ahead with all of their foundries and stuff, right? We can't... we can't compete unless we give, like, all of the Electrum from Jestercrest. I don't want to do that. So we're gonna have to figure that out. But then he mentioned, oh, it's not 8 Electrum just for the blade, it's like 5 Electrum for the blade, and then they also bought from me 1 credit, which was really annoying for us because we really needed a capital even. We really needed one of those. We had to buy it off the aeronaut. I don't know how he got one, but he did get one, so we bought that for 0.7 before anyone else could get it. That will help us collect. As mentioned in the previous video, we needed to. But he said, I also got paid for healing herbs. And I hadn't even realized he had this ability. Healing herbs, he managed to gain it, I think last round. Remove the exhausted and poisoned conditions from another agent. So that's not usually an ability the Wanderer goes for, because he can only use it at his location. So he needs to be in the right place at the right time for that. And it's tough to justify it compared to a lot of the other abilities, especially like on the final day, you want to be using First Blade as much as you possibly can, right? That's what you're going to get all the money from. But he said, yeah, healing herbs was included in that deal. What could he have healing herbed? Well, he could have healing herbed the envoy, and the envoy would have resurrected, well, not resurrected, would have unexhausted, been able to shoot, and would have taken out our commander. And the commander is the single greatest asset that we have on this turn. The commander, as long as the enemy commander isn't opposite them, they can first strike and pin the enemy forces in the city, completely stopping an attack, right? Now, it is a very temporary solution. I think the Wanderer is still going to revive that envoy. That envoy is going to try and catch us somewhere else. But what we've got is our envoy with a scanner, so we can try and stack up as many military units as we can in one location. I think we're going to send them all to theatre here, right? And then just put the envoy on top of them, and then no one can do anything to them. And then we can send them out to where they need to be on the very last checkpoint. Just keep them protected. You'll see that we've got 2 of our military down here, 1 of our military up here, right, the Marshal, and then the commander in Kingsland. We are now sending them, we were sending the Maelstrom to Kingsland to pick up the commander. I guess we aren't anymore. Well, we've got an alliance with the Highwayman, so we can jump straight into the theatre on the next turn anyway. I guess we don't really need to pick him up with this. But I had sent the Maelstrom down to pick him up just to make sure that he doesn't get screwed over in some way, right? If this, for example, this airship comes over to Cobalt and picks up the envoy and brings them to Kingsland or something like that. But I don't think it would get there in time. You'll note that the Paragon also turned around. It was coming towards us before, but it's now stopped. I wonder if it was going to pick up the envoy after the Tranquilize mission, and now that's not on the table anymore. Wanderer has told us that now Rosemore want to blade the Saurians, and honestly, thumbs up. I'm glad I'm glad one of the blades would be used on them instead of us. We'll see what happens with that, but that's my update for now. Okay, right, we are right before the 3rd train now, we're almost at the midway point of the game, almost at the midway point of the day. There's been a few things that have gone down, most notably the Wanderer was sent to try and revive the planner, of the Rose, which is now here, right, Rosemore Estate. Wait, where is it? Oh, they've dropped it off. Okay, yeah. So they were sent to revive the planner because the planner had been tranquilized, right? The Spy Master tried to intercept the Wanderer and shoot him. Unfortunately for the Spy Master, the Wanderer, we can't see it because we're not the Spy Master. Spy Master reveals all tech, right? So Spymaster should have seen it, but it was on page 3, so a bit buried in his abilities. He has a scanner. He's been given the brass to buy that, so he is immune to spy tech abilities. And so the Spymaster jumped into Goldshore and shot at him, exhausted their agent, and didn't do anything. Then the Wanderer hopped on board the Paragon, which was carrying the planner to here. The Wanderer then revived the Rosemore planner, and I think also one other person, who I'm not 100% sure who, I think the Marshal maybe, and the planner was able to get back to Roseward and work it, which was really painful, unfortunately. So we're now in a bit of a crisis. We know that Rosemore have hired at least one Wanderer Blade. The Wanderer told us exactly what had been hired and gave us the opportunity to outbid it, and that opportunity was paying him 5.5, which you'll note we can afford. There's been a slight bug, this should be at 8.9, but it will be fixed after the checkpoint. We can afford that, but that's for one of his blades, and he gets 3. That is a massive problem. And the Wanderer is the main thing that can damage us right now because we have the steel to upgrade 2 of our cities. We can put fortifications on Zerikin and Sanctuary, and then no one can shoot them with airships. But the Wanderer can still pop up there and stab them with his sword, with his first blade. So he is the biggest threat to us right now. We have 2 options. We can pay him off, which would take all of our money and mean we have nothing left to give the Spymaster, right? Or we can attempt to do something about it. And we have decided to do the latter. We are sending, you will note here on the Aristocrat, we have equipped her with a tranquilization dart. We were keeping 3 brass back just to be able to do something like this if we needed to. Not specifically to the Wanderer, but to anyone we needed to tranquilize. We are then sending her to Kingsland. We believe the Wanderer is going to Kingsland, partially because the Rose hired him. And I think the Rose want to take Kingsland, so they want to get rid of as many forces here as possible, right? We also believe that the Rose have allied with the Renegade, so we think they're trying to clear Kingsland out so that Renegade can spawn in there, right? And assist them with their take on it. So that would make sense. There's a possibility he's going to Oxbriar first, because apparently he's been hired to do something there, but we don't know what. But he also then mentioned in theatre, hey, could you ask the Archforge to open a forum in Kingsland? I want to talk to them. And that's interesting, because we think he's going to try and extort the Archforge into paying more than the Rosemore did to not be attacked. And in order to do that, he's going to have to go to where the forum is, to Kingsland. And so we can hopefully intercept him there. We are sending our Aristo in. Now, I hear you shouting at me, Meme, the Spymaster just tried to do this. It didn't work, right? He has a scanner. The scanner doesn't get disabled after one person tries to use a spy tech. It's just permanently there. That's why we've got this massive doom stack of units in the theatre hiding behind our Envoy's scanner, right? Means that no one can come in and shoot them. There's one big difference, and that one big difference is this little symbol here. The Alliance, baby. Okay, so earlier on in the phase, much earlier, here, he offered to sell us stuff, and we accepted his offer to sell us stuff. And we included an alliance with that because he wanted an alliance with us so that he is immune from the effects of a denounce. No one's used denounce this game. It's really weak now specifically because of this mechanic. If the wildcard is allied with a faction, the denounce will bounce off the wildcard and onto the faction. Denouncing is a really strong ability. It basically ruins the game for a turn for one of the wildcards, right? For whichever wildcard you target it with. But you have to do it instead of Commendation, and Commendation is worth 1 Electrum, and it doesn't work if that wildcard has an alliance. It's basically meant as a last resort, right? Thing that you can do if you have no possibility of winning. You can just try that. I think that's kind of where it should be, because otherwise it's a bit of a screw you move to the wildcards. So he wanted that alliance so that he's immune from those denouncements. He's got that alliance. He's kept that alliance with us, and hopefully he keeps it into the next turn. And the most interesting thing about the scanner, well, we can't see it on Wanderer because we can't see that he has a scanner, only Spymaster can do it, but you can see it here. Allows you to see and block enemy spy tech in this location. It doesn't block allied spy tech. And people will might debate on what exactly an alliance constitutes, but it turns out an alliance does not stop you from tranquilizing someone, so we can go in and tranquilize him. That is the idea anyway. We've got to hope it works. Apparently there is a scanner on the Envoy, but because the Envoy is under arrest, it shouldn't be working. So everything else here shouldn't impact us. You can see that the Spy Master has a scanner, but here it only disables enemy agent spy tech. Spy Master is allied to us. Apparently Arcforge also have a scanner, but we have allied them, you can see, so that we can still Trank Wanderer. We've discussed this plan with both of them, and they're both good with it. So we gotta hope and pray that in 11 minutes this plan goes off without a hitch. If it doesn't work, well, I don't know what we do, because I really want to give the rest of our Electrum to the Spy Master. Spy Master's been so loyal to us this game, it's unbelievable, and like, if we have nothing to reward her with, she's not going to get anything at all. She mentioned Arcforge here gave 0.8 Electrum for working with her the entire game long. And that's just so painful for her. I don't think what we have, I mean, it's going to be 8.9, is going to be enough for her to get into the like high up on the rankings, but we should try and give as much as we can, right? Because otherwise, I'm just going to feel incredibly bad about that. So yeah, the one other thing that happened here, you will see here, the Hurricane just fired upon the Hellenic, which was this ship right here, destroyed its siege cannon, so it can no longer shoot at our cities, and then backed out of range. That was because we paid the arrow. He's been begging us to pay him for doing that, because no one else has been willing to pay him for shooting an airship yet. And we had a long debate in our team about whether to do this or not, because again, it's removing one Electrum that we should really be giving to the spy, but we thought it's crucial enough to our success that we kind of have to do it. It stops the potential shot on Cobalt, and it stops other factions from hiring the Hurricane to come and shoot at our airship as well, which is very important. Our airship needs to be able to give support in this area in order for us to have a good chance of holding Zarek. Alright, so we'll see how things go here. Gonna be an interesting turn. Okay, we're waiting on a server update to fix the Electrum bug. The Wanderer is in Kingsland right now, as is our Aristo. We predicted that correctly. And there's no enemy units here that can block the shot. You just gotta wait until the server comes back up. This is a big moment. I'm hoping everything goes fine. If he disbands that alliance, if he sees that we've moved the aristocrat there, he might predict what... Ooh, okay. Alright, we're waiting for it to come back up again. Server's back up. Just gotta log in. Okay. My teammates are also waiting to do this, so they might have already... They got him! Yes! Mission bloody accomplished. Oh, hell yes. Okay. Well, he's out of action for the entire turn now. No one needs to pay him anything. Oh my god. And Kingsland didn't get annihilated because he wanted to talk to the Arcforge first, I think. Amazing. Okay. I gotta check back in with the team. Okay, we are just before the 5th and final train of the day here, waiting on that result. It's going to be in 3 minutes or so, and then 2 hours until combat from there. This is quite an important train for us, because we tried to negotiate a truce over here with the Saurians. Whether it's going to happen or not, I don't know. Their planner came along and did some negotiating. I think this was actually a replacement planner. Did some negotiating in here, and they seemed quite reasonable. They wanted our help in Kingsland in return for not putting anything in Scalefall, any military units, and we would be over the moon with that. We would really like to see no military in Scalefall, because it means we are guaranteed to hold Fort Zarek. Given the Unsanctuary situation, we're like maybe 70% sure that Arcforge aren't going to attack us this round. I think they're like 100% all in on keeping Kingsland. So Fort Zarek is really the one problem point for us, potentially. I can't remember if we'd fortified Zarek last time I recorded. I think it was after the last time I recorded, but we fortified Zarek and Cobalt because we don't think that Arcforge are going to go for Unsanctuary. A big reason for that as well is their marshal got tranquilized at the last checkpoint. The Empire came in to Fort Qantas, correctly predicted where that marshal would be, and shot them. So they're out of the picture. Now Arcforge only have the commander, so they can only choose one place to move units from. I think they're likely going to use that to try and secure Kingsland. They've made it very clear that they want Kingsland at the end of the game, that it's like a moral victory for them if they get that, and we're perfectly happy to support that if it means that they stay off our back, right? So really for us, and Arcforge also, after we went in and tranquilized the Wanderer in Kingsland, the Arcforge were obviously over the moon with us. They were really happy with that because the Wanderer was going to attack a bunch of these places, right? Apparently had been hired to do that. So the Arcforge were really happy with us, wanted to repay us for that, and they went in and tranquilized the Saurian commander. I don't know if he's still in here or not. I think he might have jumped out. You can see here, he got exhausted. They express ticketed across the map. I have no idea how they got that express ticket. You get it from Kingsland if you work Kingsland. Yeah, they did. No, they didn't have Kingsland last turn, and Kingsland's been overworked, so they can't really do much here. I don't understand how they got that. Yeah, of course. Of course they did that. Alright, hang on. I've got to cut this short for the moment. It looks like the Saurians did not keep to their side of the deal. As could be expected, I suppose they have been doing this all game long. So I guess it is what it is. We only have to beat the Marshal because our commander here can pin the unit in Aridias, going in that way. Alright, and okay, the Arcforge commander is in Fort Qantas. That's a bit of a problem because that could go to Unsank. We could stop that taking Unsank by sending our Firebrand backwards. I think most likely it's just going to lead a force into Kingsland. We'll see what happens with that. Okay, I'll update with the rest later. Okay, well, we are frantically doing maths at the moment. There was a very, very long discussion after what you just saw there. I mean, you just saw effectively what happened, right? The lizards tried to make a deal with us as to them moving away from Scalefall and us not covering Zarek. We kept to our side of the deal. They did not keep to theirs. Should really have expected it. They've done it almost every single time, except for that one time where the Highwayman spooked it out of them. They've lied to us the checkpoint before, and then just gone for us anyway. Luckily for us, we didn't leave things to chance. We did move everything into positions that would be able to cover Zarek. And, like, the Saurian line of reasoning makes sense. They talked in theatre, and it was quite a heated discussion, partially my fault. I was also a little bit annoyed that they'd just done that to us again. And specifically, I wouldn't be so annoyed if they were just targeting Fort Zarek, but they also threw away Peerless Peak to the Rose. Right here, they don't have a unit on it. They've said that they have an express ticket so they can get a unit back to it, but I don't think they're going to, and I'll talk about why I don't think they're going to in a second here. But they believe their only chance of winning the game comes from taking Zarek. Now, we tried to explain to them that it's not possible for them to take Zarek, unless they have something very interesting hidden up their sleeve, like a second Express and a Tranquilize on one of our backline units here, because our commander is covered from a Trank, right? We actually have quite a bit more strength than them. The commander is going to run into Aridias, which means that this unit gets pinned back by First Strike, and the Maverick is the only unit that goes in. Their best bet of countering that is, because this is so much better than their Maverick, right? It's 7 renown, that adds 7 support to their army. The best way of countering that is to express this guy, the Marshal, up to Scalefall and lead their army in from there. But if they do that, they just don't have enough strength to overwhelm even just 2 of our forces here. It's a big difference between having 10 units go in and having 20, right? But they absolutely can't have 20 go in. There's no way they get to have 20 go in because our commander will be pinning them. So we were trying to explain there's no shot of you taking this, right? And I do think we got some of the points across. I was trying to put everything on the table so that they knew all the information, knew that they couldn't go for it, right? And so I told them, look, your only way of even doing, like, getting close to doing this, because your marshal is getting pinned in here by the commander, is by expressing that marshal up to scalefall, and even with that, you don't have enough. Right? I was very clearly trying to lay all their options out on the table so they knew they don't have a chance of getting this. They should put their marshal in Peerless Peak with the express ticket, and then they might be able to hold that against the Rose attack. In fact, I think they would be able to hold that against the Rose attack because Veteran only has 5 here, right? And their Marshal has 7, so their Marshal would just defeat that. Unfortunately, they weren't talking very much in theatre. They decided to do most of their talking in Fort Matrice, talking to the Rose. We don't know what was said there. It was clearly something quite convincing. They were teetering on the edge of going against the Rose, I think. It sounded like there was some level of dispute between the two of them, because one of these ships, the Rose ship, started to go towards Peerless Peak at one point, and then these guys shot it. So they shot out its siege cannon so it wouldn't be able to shoot at either of their cities, and then it stopped going that way. So clearly something bad happened between them, but after that point, they came to some conclusion and decided to work together. We know that because they said outright in theatre, they haven't got any other choice, they just have to come for us. And we were, again, trying to explain that that wasn't the case, but they wouldn't really even reply to anything we said after that point. So yeah, we just didn't have a shot at convincing them not to do this. So unfortunately, I believe that the Rose are going to take Peerless Peak for free. That's 8 renown, right? And we're not getting anything this turn. Our hope is to get the Scoundrel. I found out, too much to my sadness, that this guy does not work quite how I thought he did. It's worth 1 renown for each luxury to spent a bit on them. It used to work how I thought, which is that it is outright you would get 16 luxuries, 16 renown for this, which would be absurd. But no, it's capped at 9, so you can't get more than 9 from this guy. But 9 is still a lot, so 9 might give us the win if we win this. But outside of that, there's no chance that we're getting any increase in renown outside of on our military leaders, right? So we're not gaining any cities here. There's just no way for us to do it. We're too much on the defensive. We also have to hope that Ark keeps this alliance with us and doesn't just go to stab us in the back, because if they do go for Sanctuary, we just lose. There's nothing we can do about that now, because Rose is going to get Peerless Peak for free, and they also have that attack into Kingsland. We have to focus on trying to deny them Kingsland, otherwise they overtake us. So yeah, that's about what the situation is there. So we're just really hoping to see this Marshal get expressed back over to Peerless, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's going up. And now we're just doing the maths to see, do we actually need the commander to interrupt them in Iridias, or could he go down to Kingsland and stop the Rose taking it? What we've figured out is that he does need to pin this Marshal in, as long as it stays there. But if it expresses up to Scalefall, which is their way of dodging that pin, then we can actually send the commander down because we win with just these backline units. So that's where we're at on that. On the Kingsland situation, something else interesting happened, which was that this, I've done a silly thing here and just arrested everyone who was at this location because at the final turn it doesn't matter, right? We had our Marshal there, they were all exhausted. But that was after the conversation stopped in the forum. But the notable thing here is that the Imperial Aristocrat came to our city to talk in the forum, and we let him into the forum and just started talking to the Imperials. And the Imperials asked us, hey, could we get an alliance here? Like, if you're really wanting to deny the Rose from Kingsland, one way we could do that, we're planning to create this route between Heartrock and Kingsland, right? With the help of the Highwayman. Hopefully the Highwayman follows up on that. And we're going to attack over it and try and take Kingsland ourselves. If you ally with us and you go in and skirmish from, like, Leafburn, you might be able to, like, weaken the Rose forces enough that we can take it instead. And there's a bit of a questionable decision, and there's a bit of an interesting decision there, because the Imperials aren't that far behind the Rose. You can see they're only 1 point, right? But if the Rose are getting Peerless for free, that's 8 renown. So they are definitely the #1 threats. And Imperials, I don't see what they could take that actually gives them renown. You can see Fort Qantas would give them 6. That's their best bet over there. But Fort Qantas has 22 units defending it. That's really hard to overwhelm, right? Especially with the commander sitting here as well. It depends whether the Arcforge lead their forces into Kingsland and try and keep it. But I don't think the Imperials will win this. Unless they also, like, win the Scoundrel or something like that. We'll see on that. But we actually accepted that. We said, hey, yeah, okay, we're going to ally you. We're going to go for Kingsland as well. We are currently trying to math out, is there any chance that we actually stop them in Kingsland? Do we need to send our commander down in order to do that? Because they have, look at all these airships. If they're allied with the Saurians, then they actually get a ton more support. Not that one, because they shot out the fighter bay on that one, but this one as well. But in that case, we don't need to worry about the Rose as much, because then they can't take Peerless Peak. They have to disband their alliance in order to take that one, so that's not a problem. So they're still going to have a ton of strength from just these 3. We know that they hired the support from the Hurricane as well. They shot out the units that were defending Kingsland, and actually they had Saurian help on this, so this was after their kerfuffle over this Paragon trying to go that way. They clearly worked it out, because then the Saurians helped them and shot Kingsland for them and cleared it out. And they're going to have the Renegade spawn there most likely. We blew up all the Renegade bases on the map together with Arcforge, so the Renegade is going to be weak, but they're still going to have an impact. They'll reduce the strength of everyone not allied with them, and that probably includes Imperials. Yeah, so that's the situation now. We're sort of scrambling for a way to stop Rose from winning after Saurians have decided that their only path to winning is to suicide into Xeric, despite the fact that they can't actually take it. It's frustrating for us, because they can't take Xeric, right? They're throwing everything at a thing that won't work, and it's going to destroy our game because Rose can win from behind. But I see why they need to do it, right? They need to do something to try and get the win, and ultimately defending Peerless Peak isn't enough for them. You can see that their renown count is 51. They're tied with, like, our faction is well ahead right now. All the other factions are basically even, which means we are the ones on the defensive. We're the ones who just have to hold out and hope no one else gets higher than us, try and keep things balanced, right? Whereas all of the other factions need to make gains in order to get to that win. And as much as I would love to say, you know, how dare these Saurians attack us in Xeric? That's just unfair. They're ruining our chances when they've got no chance of doing it. What else could they do? They need to go for something. They could try and get Kingsland, which was what I was suggesting to them, but they might be trying that anyway, to be honest. Like, look at where their airships are. And they might think that their best bet of gaining something is hoping that the Rose keep to this alliance with them in order to get that airship support over Kingsland. And then they won't be able to take Peerless Peak, and then the Saurians actually do have a little bit more of a chance. So I can't really complain about what they're doing. It's that interesting state in the end game where there are some factions who actually just can't win, and they have to decide what to do, and no matter what they decide to do, they're probably going to annoy someone in the process, right? I think Arcforge have gone down a similar route here, kind of similar, because they ran around tranquilizing everyone and trying to make sure that they held Kingsland. They just made holding Kingsland at the end of the game their #1 priority, right? And if they 100% commit to that, we'll be a lot happier with them, but the rest of the board won't be because it might make us win. If they backstab us and go to Unsanctuary instead, then we lose and we'll be mad at them, but they'll have gained a bit more renown, so we shouldn't really be mad at them for doing what's best for their game, right? So it's all this interesting, like, last-minute stuff. I should really go back to calculating the maths. I'll continue filming when we get to that combat stage, and just hope that we can somehow pull it off against this unified front on this side, and hope that the Imperials can pull off getting Kingsland. I don't think they can, but the stack that they've got here is pretty good. Barbarian will add 3 soldiers, and then the commander will multiply it by 6, right? So hopefully that'll be enough to get them Kingsland. Or at the very least to reduce everyone else going into Kingsland to nothing so that the Archforge hold it. That would work too. We just gotta hope. Okay, my team has been talking maths for the last hour. On and off a bit, but genuinely throughout. There's the new route between Heart Rock and Kingsland. Okay, so we figured out that Imperials should win this by like 4. It'll be like 80 against 86. Well, that's not 4, but like something like that, right? As long as we go in from Leaf Burn. Oh, you bastard. Oh, Highwayman disbanded the Alliance. Oh, okay, that changes everything. Okay, we hadn't predicted Highwayman screwing us over for no reason. I guess he got like paid by someone else. But what we figured out up here, we need to keep an eye on the Marshal and the Maverick, and see whether that transports up here, and if it does, we need to change this unit's order to go here. I thought that was supposed to be going... Wait, hang on. Okay. I'm really genuinely heartbroken that the Highwayman screwed us over. I had to do a retake on that line. I think that's the difference. But what we figured out was it should have come down to the Scoundrel, who wins the Scoundrel, so whoever got the most luxuries over the course of the game between us and Rose would win. Yeah, that's not going to work, is it? What? Why is that linked? There's no army to come in from there. I'm so confused. That's just the Highwayman playing silly buggers, I think. It's possible we still win if some miracle happens. We're also waiting to see if Archforge disband their alliance with us, because that's a possibility. We think we can secure this for Imperials, but we're not sure. We thought so. Oh, there we go. Okay, so Commander now goes to here. Oh, no. That's the wrong order. Here. Okay, now we just gotta wait to see if Archforge disband our alliance. That was the last thing. I don't know. So they did go up there. That's interesting. Oh my god, we lost it. How did we lose it? Did we miscalculate? How did we lose that? 24, 48, 30. So they're on 70. Oh my god, we still won. We still somehow won. No idea how we won. I mean, we won by winning the agent bidding there. I'm 100% certain. Yeah, we won the Scoundrel 16. Everyone went for the Scoundrel. Oh my god. Alright, well, I'm glad we got as many, Okay, unbelievable. We must have done the maths wrong here. How much do we have? We have 48, 30, 24. That's 70, 94. I thought we had 104. Which one didn't trigger? What was wrong with our maths? Saurian army of 12. Oh, they brought 12. I thought they could only bring 10. Is that the difference? Oh my god. Alright, well. I do need to say incredible congratulations to my team. They were absolutely incredible throughout this, Katherine and TheQueenInYellow. And I think I say, like, I don't go back and check the recordings until after I'm done with the game completely. But I think I say I more than I should. I think, like, that's just a force of habit. It is very much a we. We did a lot of this stuff together, and they were they were on top of things that I was not on top of through this game. Oh my god, I'm just flabbergasted that we managed to win that. I should also say as well, with the Spy Master, we did give the Spy Master everything we had left, which ended up being 8.9 here, right? Which is a pretty high amount, but I don't think it was as much as she wanted. But our hope was that she'd get the other half from the Arcforge. She actually managed to gather a lot by scamming the people on this side of the map in the final turn. I think she went over 10, so she got up to like 19 maybe. But unfortunately, Arc gave all their money to Highwayman instead of her. She was not happy about that. I don't know exactly what caused that in the end. Gotta say thank you to Arc for not invading us there. That was a huge difference. And like, also, man, if Rose had won Kingsland, we wouldn't have won. So balance of power was the correct way to go about this, right? We stopped the Rose army here. It was Rose 160 against Imperial 140. Look at that. Mask army reduces the... Wait, hang on, how... I'm so confused about that, because we reduced it less than the Renegade did. The Renegade should be reducing from the Imperial... Oh, you know what? I bet the Imperials allied the Renegade. Oh, that was genius on their part. In that case, it wasn't even us who secured it for them, but well done to them for that. And just great game to everyone. This was such a hype ending as well. I am so much in shock that we won that. Look how close it was. Well, maybe not with everyone, but like between these factions and us? Oh my god. Oh, wow. Alright, I'm gonna do my usual endgame wrap-up thing after this. For now, I'm gonna hop into the call with the others and just do the post-game chat. Wow. Okay, I'm briefly recording my post-game recap here. Usually I would do this like a few days later once I've gone through all the videos, and I might do a little bit of that, but for now I really need to talk about what happened at the end of the game here, because man, I did not know how close this was. Like, I know from the renown points how close it is. 64 on the Rosemore and 66 on the Young Empire to our 70. Right, so that's the Scoundrel won it for us. I want to find where they are here. There we go. Scoundrel 9 renown. That would have been 9 points less for us and 9 points more for someone else. That could have won it for anyone. Right. Now, that comes down to luxuries. We bid 16 luxuries on the Scoundrel. Notably, we could have had 18, we had a trade good, and we had not collected the theatre yet. You can see that. If we had managed to get a capital, we would have been able to collect 2 more luxuries, and put that into our bid here for 18. And as it turns out, 18 would have been completely safe. The next highest faction bid was 16. It was exactly the same. And that came from the Rosemore. So if the Rosemore had won that bid, they would have overtaken us. Now, how is the tiebreak determined? The tiebreak is determined by the agent bidding order. You will have seen that the agents were in a certain order on the previous screen on ours, and that order is different for every faction, and the further they are to the left, the higher they are in your tiebreak order. So if you bid the same amount on them as someone else, whoever has them better in their tiebreak order, which is completely randomly determined, will win that unit. So we won it based on pure RNG there. But notably, we could have won it without the RNG if we hadn't given the 1 extra Electrum to the Spymaster as a trade good. I had a big debate with my team about this, over whether we should convert that trade good into Electrum or credit. I really wanted to make sure we had enough luxuries, but they eventually convinced me to turn it into an Electrum to give to the Spymaster so we could give them 8.9 instead of 7.9. Thankfully, we won anyway, so I don't need to go, oh my god, that was what lost us the game. But god, it was so close. It also important to note in the final, so there were a few things that happened here, right? We lost Fort Xeric. I did not know why we lost Fort Xeric, because all my maths pointed to Fort Xeric being able to be held by us. The reason we lost it was because Saurian unit of Army of 12 arrived from Scalefall. I thought it was a maximum of 10 units from a location that could be ordered into a particular adjacent location, right? It's not, it's 10 units per officer at that location. So because they had 2 officers at Scalefall, they actually managed to bring all 12 units there instead of the 10, and so we lost that fight. Now, we could have saved it by ordering the commander north. However, if we'd have done that, we would have lost Fort Cobalt to the Brigadier coming in. We only managed to keep it because we pinned him back with the first strike, right? So Fort Cobalt would have been lost instead. Fort Cobalt is 5 renown, this one is 9, so that would have been a difference of 4, we would have been on 74. But then if you look at the renown count on Rosemore, right, it's still the Scoundrel that does it. If they go +9 and we go -9, even from 74, we would still have lost if we had the wrong tiebreak order there. It was incredibly close. And notably, as well, look at the Imperials here in Kingsland, right? I thought that they'd managed to ally the Renegades here, and that was why they won. No, it turns out the Renegade wasn't allied to anyone. I thought that maybe Rose and the Imperials had managed to hire the Renegade here. Because Rose shot out all of the defenders here, which let the Renegade spawn. You wouldn't think they would do that unless they were allied to the Renegade, but I think they were intending to ally the Renegade, and Renegade just never got back to them. They spawned in Kingsland, they weren't allied, and so the Rose came in from here, the Imperials came in from here, and they were both fighting the Renegade, so the Renegade's score doesn't matter here. Which means actually it was our -40 on that Rose army and being allied to the Imperials that got it for the Imperials there. And that ended up being critical as well, because if the Rosemore had taken it instead, you'll see the Young Empire ends up on 66 here because they have Kingsland. In the world where they don't have Kingsland, they would be on 57, and Rose would have had 9 more and would have won against us even without the Scoundrel. So absolutely incredible play from the Rose. I have to say that it was just a lot of fortuitous things on our part that went well in order for us to manage to take the win here. And it's also just the fact that the luxuries were exactly even makes me think of how lucky we were that that was the case. We had we talked to the merchant earlier that phase, right, and managed to get him to sell us 3 luxuries. If we hadn't done that, we wouldn't have been able to do this. We would have lost. We talked to the Wanderer and managed to get one luxury off him earlier. This was a bidding war between us and the Rose. If the Rose had gotten that one luxury off him, they would have won. Right? It's incredible. And then there were a bunch of luck-related things. If you bid on an agent and you don't win that bid, you get the luxuries for it back. We continuously lost our bids in the last couple phases because other people bid more, which resulted in us not getting incredible agents, but having enough luxuries to get this win at the end of the day. I've got to say, that was amazing. Absolutely unbelievable. This is just a stunning endgame, and I have to say, well played to all of the players in this game. It was fantastic. I'm so glad we won, but it could really have gone other ways. And, it was an absolute blast playing with you all. Thanks for playing. Okay, so here are the actual final scores for the game. You can see them all on screen now. I've already kind of talked about the faction ones, and you'll have seen how they got there over the course of the game, right? 70 for us in first place, and then 66 for the Imperials, having sniped Kingsland. That was enough to take them up into second. 64 for Rose, 57 for the Saurians, mainly because they lost Peerless Peak at the same time as taking Xeric off us, so they sort of stayed even on that. And then down to 47 for the Arcforge. They weren't really in it for the points at the very end. You could see that by the fact that they didn't go for us, right, on that monument. They really wanted to keep Kingsland, and in the end they weren't really able to do that either because their military leader got tranquilized, so they only had one available. They were never going to be able to keep that central city, right? But yeah, we managed to come out on top on the faction side. Absolutely fantastic. I was very proud of that performance and of the team as a whole. Well done, Katherine, and well done, QueenInYellow. As we move on to the wildcard side here, this is obviously the side of the game that you saw less of through us, although most of these wildcards did appear at some point or another during the video. We have at the bottom the Renegade on 6.3. Unfortunately, they just didn't manage to sell their services very often, and when they did, they sold it for very, very cheap. You can see on the final day, people were willing to pay them a bit more, but they just weren't around as much on that day. I think they knew that they weren't going to be able to get to the top at that point, so just wanted to have a more sort of chill time. Then you go up to the chase group, the Spymaster, Wanderer, and Merchants. All of these wildcards got crippled in some way during the game, and a lot of them were thanks to us. You saw that the Merchants, well, not entirely thanks to us, but partially thanks to us. You saw that the Merchants ended up getting their Ironmonger tranquilized on the first day. They managed to use it later on, but they used it in our territory, and then we arrested them and locked them up, and they were not able to use that Ironmonger for the rest of the game. That is a huge downside for a merchant, because a lot of that Electrum income that you're planning to get as the merchant is from steel. People really need steel, the factions do, in order to get those upgrades and those airships during the game. So honestly, very well played to the merchant for managing to get that amount, 22, without any Ironmonger for most of the game. Likewise, the Wanderer managed to get to 20.4 without selling their sword on the final day, which is utterly insane. They did try and sell their sword, and they came to the agreement to sell their sword, but they hadn't actually accepted the Electrum by the time we tranquilized them on that last day. They had enough stamina for 3 swords. 3 swords. That would have definitely put them in contention for first place. People are willing to pay a lot on the last day for that kind of destruction, right? Getting rid of, I think it was 12 units, maybe 15 in a location. And that bypasses the fort protection, which is what people use to stop people shooting out those with airships, right? That is huge. That would have changed the course of the game, and he was unable to collect on those. So the Wanderer ending up on 20.4, managing to get to that point without selling the most important item in his inventory, again, pretty incredible, but unfortunately for him, not good enough because he got tranquilized. Having that alliance with a faction is a really dangerous thing to do as the Wanderer on the final day, you have to make people think you have an alliance with a faction, regardless of what you're doing, so that they can't denounce you, right? But I don't think you actually want to have an alliance with a faction as the Wanderer on the last day. It's just a bit too risky. Too much of your power is concentrated in that one agent who can get taken out with the Tranquilize. And finally in that group we have the Spy Master. Now the Spy Master comes out with 20.0, 8.9 of that we gave to them on the final day. We were hoping to give more, but we just had to spend the Electrum on the things that would make us win the game, right? 20 is actually extremely impressive considering that she didn't really earn anything much until that final day, and then she ran around promising that she'd tranquilize people and all this stuff, and then basically not actually going through with any of it for any of the people that she sold to. So a good amount of that, like 10 of that, came from scamming people on the last day. It can be a very effective way of making money. But yeah, when you've been working for free for most of the game, and then one of the factions that you worked for free for, in this case the Arcforge, just doesn't pay you, there's not a lot you can do. I don't think the strategy was necessarily bad. The Spy Master is a really hard wildcard to play, just in general. Especially at the moment, I think they need a little bit more mobility with their agents, just because so much of their arsenal is based around tranquilizing things, right? And you have to be in the right place at the right time to get the payment that you need. And in order to do that, you need to be able to plan ahead, and people aren't willing to pay you for gambles, right? For, like, you might be at the same location as this person at this time. So the way that this Spy Master chose to do it, just going ahead and tranquilizing the people that they wanted to tranquilize and making it very clear to the factions, well, two very specific factions, that she was working for them and wanted something in return at the end of the game out of goodwill, that can work. But yeah, it just didn't work well enough here. And then we move up to the very top pack, the people in strong contention for the win, right? First off, in third place, you got the Brotherhood with 33.7 Electrum. We didn't interact much with the Brotherhood this game. We managed to pay a small amount to get that builder. It did end up being critical, the builder, because it gave us the luxuries that we needed to get the Scoundrel, right? And the overflow vats in order to get all that Electrum out of Jestercrest on the final day. But we weren't that key in their win because we were giving them very, very small amounts. Like, I think we gave them 0.7 over the entire course of the game. So they were clearly selling their other agents for high enough that they managed to get competitive by the end. The Aeronaut managed to come away with 35.9. I believe the Aeronaut has an after-action report that I will link in the description below on how they managed to get there. Much better performance than my Aeronaut was, I gotta say that. Maybe because they were a little bit more willing to do things that would annoy people. I mean, I technically was too. But they were willing to alienate factions a little bit more by threatening them and stuff. I'm not certain how they ended up with 35.9. I need to read up on their AAR. That is a lot of Electrum to get as the Aeronaut, so very, very good job to them. But in first place, it's the Highwayman. And I think this was absolutely deserved. This Highwayman was just friends with everyone, right? Constantly charging people, constantly setting up those routes everywhere, but at the same time making you feel like you're his friend, even if he's setting up a route against you, right? And he didn't actually stab anyone in the back until that very last moment where he disbanded the alliance with us, and apparently with everyone else. He got paid 11 Electrum by the Imperials. A last-second dump just to disband his alliances with everyone. And I think that ended up being very important to Imperials being able to capture Kingsland, because you notice the strengths were relatively similar. If the Rose had had an extra support, maybe it would have gone the other way. And so yeah, I can't really be mad at him for breaking the alliance for 11 Electrum. I would have done the same thing, I think. So well done to the Highwayman for coming out on top there. Well done to us for coming out on top in the faction game. And well played to everyone in this game. This has been Days Without Strife. If you're interested in playing, please go check out the Discord server. It's linked in the description below. Game's still in alpha, so they are all playtests, but they are great fun, and I love this game. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.